9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
We are off and running. Welcome to the Sports Bar, Rochester's longest-running sports talk show. Gene Battaglia with you today. Danger will be back on Monday. 3T once again in here today. Terrible take, Timmy, a.k.a. on CMF. Terrible time, Timmy. You and I had a great time today. As I think we broke the seal right on holiday parties.
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
this is new to me. Usually it's like it's nighttime and it's cool. And
well, those days are over.
Yeah, no, I know. Trust me, I know. This is my first invite to the new regime.
Yeah, so this is, and thank you to our new GM, Tim Wenger, who also oversees the fine properties in Buffalo, came into town today. We were at the new room at Rohrbox down in the public market, and I got to tell you, like, their food right now, I'm completely satiated. Like, you and I were treated today along with all the other employees here today. So thank you. Yeah, this sets me in the holiday mood here today, Tim. Although I got to tell you, I was good today. Okay, I was good, meaning, all right, here we are, and it's noon, and it's an open bar. You're like, what would you like? And then you go in there, and it's like, okay, yeah, okay, I can't have that. Crossing off that, yeah, I can't go with that IPA. How about the Christmas one? Perfect.
It was phenomenal.
What would you like? Would you like the 10.2 or the 4.5? I'm like, wait a second. I'm looking at it right here. It says 4.5. I didn't realize that number 2 on the list was the same beer, except they brew it at 10 point. No. I'm having the 4.5, please. I've got a show to do here at 3:00. So had one of those, very tasty. And thank you to the folks at Rohrbox for hooking us up today. And Tim, was great to kind of break bread with you, and also out there, Rich, and some of the other fine people we work with. Frank was out there. A lot of people came from Odyssey.
I had a really good time, and yeah, the 10-2 I would love to have had. I might go back and have it, but I could not do that at noon, knowing that I had to be here at 3.
Well, and I didn't get the bartender's name, and shame on me, but she was great. And I just said, well, I would love to. She's like, the 10.2, that's where you're sitting with the tree on, the fire on, and you're in your recliner at night. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. Hey, drive safe. You don't need me to tell you that if you're driving around, because the way the world works here in Rochester, like other places, when we first get our doses here of winter weather, we all kind of forget how to drive. So not you personally listening, but, just be careful out there. 866-4FAN, 866-4326 is our phone number. If you would like, dial safely. You could reach us on X, The Fan Rochester. Hey, we're back up and streaming on YouTube, as Tim is pointing to the camera, as well as Twitch. Leave us a comment there in the section, as if you, for some reason, you want to see our ugly mugs. I had that once.
Hey, some people are into it.
One of the executive producers, her friend at the time, this is like 20 years ago, she saw me and she's like, oh, your voice, I thought you would be more tall and, more dark haired. I'm like, oh, sorry. Yeah, that's not the image. Nope. Yep, sure. Half Italian guy here from Greece. That's what you're getting. So 866-4FAN is the phone number. Yeah, yesterday, off to the static start, to use kind of a track phrase. Today we are off and running. Not off and running, as you may have heard. So let's review the events in the last, I can't even say 24 hours, the last 22 hours, because around 5 o'clock yesterday, we're like, ooh, this is interesting. The Bills claimed Darius Slay off of waivers, as he, of course, was playing against the Bills last week. Pittsburgh corner, veteran, going to be 35. But if you're just doing the, hey, for your corner 4, in case of emergency, in case you need him, you don't have to go very far. Christian Benford went out in the AFC Championship game, and what was the answer? You had Kyer Elam tripping over his own shoelaces, okay? Darius Slay, from that standpoint, and from you factor in because the bonus money, because the Steelers are paying for the majority of this, to me, it was a no-brainer. Except now that brings us to the events of today. And this might be the flaw in the system, Tim, is with waivers, it's not like free agency. It's not like, hey, when you're looking to sign somebody on the street, does this make sense for you? Are you into it? If the answer is no, then go away. You don't want to have somebody come in against their will. But the look of that move yesterday kind of had the, all right, we're going to let you go chase a ring somewhere else. Go. Except, apparently, Darius Slay wanted to play in only one place, from various reports, Philadelphia. That was the whole idea. And actually, Philadelphia did put in a claim. So many things I'm wondering here. It was Slay unhappy in Pittsburgh, and was this a ploy? And was his agent giving him the wrong advice that, hey, you do this, and then you get back in Philadelphia? By the way, Philadelphia, come on. It doesn't look quite right with the Eagles. Yes, they're a playoff team, but they've got to get their act together here. I'd say right now, I'd have more concerned if I'm an Eagles fan than being a Bills fan. Honest, even though the Eagles right now are in a position to win that division in terms of winning a championship. But I digress. Darius Slay, through his agent today, said, no, I will not be reporting to Buffalo, and that he would take a few days away from football to decide if he's retired. I think it's noteworthy to tell you who the agent is. It's Drew Rosenhaus, okay? And Rosenhaus, he did navigate, I'll give him this credit, when Jordan Poyer was still a baller in this league, and everybody was getting their money in Buffalo, and Jordan Poyer did not. Rosenhaus showed up on the sidelines at Fisher, showed up for his client, advocated for his client. So in the standpoint of if he's going to advocate for his client and do whatever it takes for his client, he's the guy. But when it comes to waivers, if that's the advice, let me ask for my release. You're out of luck. You're at the mercy. The Bills own the rights of Darius Slay. So basically, right now it's play for us or you're retired. And this puts the Bills in a really awkward spot because by releasing Jamarcus Ingram, they have only 3 healthy corners on the roster now. Yikes. So where does this go from here? You can't be like, okay, we'll take a few weeks and I don't think it's a money ploy either, Tim.
No, definitely not.
No, I like if Rosenhaus is like, you know what, if you want to report, maybe we can get the Bills to cough up some more money. Like, no, at this point, do you want to chase another ring or not? And I say another ring. He won a ring in Philadelphia last year.
The trade deadline passed, so there's that too. There's a lot to digest with that. But as Bills fan or Bills follower, at least in my case, you're almost wishing, and he's dead, so I don't mean to speak ill, but Vontae Davis quit at halftime. That is better for the Bills than what is happening now, because now they're screwed. They can't adapt to that. In the middle of a game, you figure it out because you have your personnel out there. They've made the adjustment to get this guy on the roster, and the guy says, "No, I'm not even going to come here." They're screwed.
Is this worse than Vontae Davis? No, there's been other instances where a guy was like, I'm not going to report. Vontae Davis went through all the camp, and he literally quit at halftime. That, Tim, unprecedented.
Sure, that's embarrassing. But I mean, for the Bills' landscape, the scope of their roster, they're now down to 52 because they made a cut to get this guy in.
Well, they can bring. Look, all it takes, Tim, is like, hey, Jamarcus, want to come back and.
No, it's an easy fix. I understand.
I honestly, it's a little.
But also, if you're Jamarcus Ingram, sure, you want to come back to the practice squad because you want to be employed in the NFL. But why didn't you just keep me in the first place? If you didn't know this guy was going to come, why bother? Don't you talk about that coming in? Especially on the heels. We talked about Thielen possibly coming in.
Fine. I hear what you're saying, and here's why I would disagree. Jamarcus Ingram's out there right now, right? Who's picking him up? Like to me
Nobody's adding him to 53.
Right. That's where, like, do you want to play in this league? Yes or no? For Slay, it's a plan that went awry. Like normally you wouldn't think for a 34-year-old corner you would have teams putting in claims, one, much less two. And I thought, gosh, when it came across, I didn't even give it a thought. I'm like, okay, great. No Bills reporter, correct me if I'm wrong, said, hey, you know what? We should kind of consider this. But when it happened, and like, oh. And you and I were going through the exercise yesterday, like, okay, what does this mean? Is there somebody on the roster that you could part ways with? And we both landed on Ingram. Jamarcus Ingram has been here a long time. Jamarcus Ingram is never going to be a corner 3 in this league. You like him because he's depth. He does all the work. He went to UB. His time is kind of ending in this league. Like, he's like, in terms of like the middle part. I was looking also at Sam Franklin, but Franklin does play special teams.
It turns out Slay's time in this league is ending too, though. So you added a guy who doesn't even want to be here. I think that's the biggest indictment on Buffalo, is he only wanted to go to Philadelphia. Buffalo said no, and we did this literally 24 hours after Thielen agreeing to go to a contender, and the contender was the 6-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, Slay is gone because Thielen is in. Thielen could have, in theory, been claimed by Buffalo. He might have been. We don't know. But,
well, okay, so this is like when it comes to backroom dealings, if a player is on waivers, okay. See, I think this would violate the CBA too. Like Drew Rosenhaus picking up the phone and calling each individual team saying, do not take my client. He'll retire if he comes to you.
And maybe that's what occurred, and that's why Buffalo is screwed somehow otherwise.
No, but I'm just saying, like, in theory, is that even allowed? I don't know the answer to that. Like, if that's the plan, I want to get my client to Philadelphia, do not put in a claim. I can't. It's just bad business all around. Like, this is the system that is in place. And no, you're not going to go to Philadelphia. See, you and I disagree on this. There's no egg on the face of Brandon Beane. He's trying to upgrade the 53. Jamarcus Ingram is the 53rd man. And if we do have a problem, again, when we get to the postseason, when you're down Christian Benford and Maxwell Harrison, you're going out there with Tre'Davious White and Jamarcus Ingram, forget it. You got to try something else. So the Bills, we've been saying this all along, they are thin at that position. Like, for Tre'Davious White, I got to be honest. Anybody that's upset with his play, I think you've gotten more than you could expect from Tre'Davious White here in the second go-round at his advanced age.
I was for the signing. I just think that, again, 24 hours kind of writes the story itself. 24 hours later, 22 hours later even, Darius Slay says, no, I'm not doing it. And, like, Brandon Beane did the right thing. You improve the roster. That is a mathematically proper thing to do. Analytically, he is better than Jamarcus Ingram, despite his age. Whatever. The age doesn't matter if you're a better player at 44 or 24. Mm-hmm. If you can play, you can play. That's fine. That is the right move.
Well,
but when they say, no, I'm not coming, then you've got to fix that. And that's probably not something they were prepared to do.
Well, they can fix this, and there's other options, because you know why Slay was released in part.
We never figured that out. At least I didn't.
No, because it was because he did not play against the Bills on Sunday. The Steelers elevated Asante Samuel. So Asante Samuel
also ancient. Oh, not junior.
No, junior. Yeah. Senior's ancient, but junior corner, he's 26. Now, wasn't healthy. Now, top pick of the Chargers, ends up in Pittsburgh. He was on the street for a while. Is that somebody? Well, the Steelers are going, have to put him on the 53 here. That's my, and in hockey, when it comes, and I'm not so deep in the hockey, moves and everything, but I'm cognizant enough to know that offer sheets, it's kind of forbidden. It's like a handshake agreement between GMs. It's just kind of silly.
Which is dumb.
So why can't the Bills scour all these practice squads? Like, you mean to tell me? Now, Asante Samuel Jr., as far as I know, was one of those. He's not on the 53, was just elevated. Okay, well, if he's not on the 53, then go get him.
That would be a dynamite move to snipe the guy that was elevated for the guy that you tried to get, and now the Steelers can't have him because you went and plucked him.
So that process, I do know that it's not as simple as plucking somebody off of waivers. If you want to sign somebody from somebody else's practice squad, and that's part of the CBA, you can do that. But that team that is going to potentially lose that player, they have a decision within 24 hours. Okay, do we elevate that player to the 53? And if so, then you have to make a corresponding move. And is that a hostile move for the Buffalo Bills if they wanted to go pursue an Asante Samuel Jr. or anybody else? I would say no.
In theory, it is a hostile move because nobody does it. But if you're trying to win, you're doing what you can to win.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is this kind of like the NHL offer sheet thing? We're like, no, we don't. And there was a corner from the Bills years ago, and Rashad Wildgoose. I kind of remember that name, right? Wild Goose was a 7th-round pick, didn't make the team, put him on the practice squad. Oh, yeah, the Jets took him off the 50 to their 53. Okay. Yeah, that's – if you have a good 53-man roster, it would stand to reason that your practice squad would actually have better players and then other teams could improve on the back end. So, I mean, we could debate if there's egg on the face, but it's – yeah.
I don't think there's egg on the face. I just think that to me, it's humorous because they did the right thing and it still didn't work out. It as Browns fan, it's like, oh, that makes sense. But as Bills follower, holy crap, it can happen to anybody. The Bills are, in theory, still a Super Bowl contender, right? They're probably not going to win the division, but they're still a dangerous force in the AFC. And somebody still said, no, I'm not going here. I'm only going there. And now he's going nowhere. He is effectively quitting instead of reporting to a team who could very well win a Super Bowl the year after he won a Super Bowl somewhere else.
Well, I think from the get-go, I wouldn't say quitting. It was like, okay, my career's ending. I only want to go in one spot. And this didn't even cross his mind probably that, okay, another team could jump in like this. But there's no way the Bills are like, oh, take your time. No.
What if the Bills did it? Actually, this might be a power move on Bean's behalf. If we can't have him, no one can. And there you are.
No, there's no power move. It
prevents the Eagles from getting him.
No, that's the only move. That is the only move here, Tim. I'm sorry. You were in this league. You're not breaking the CBA, okay? You're not going to let players kind of dictate where they want to go. That's that simple. And like you said, because we're past the trade deadline, you're out of luck. 866-4FAN, 866-4326 is our phone number. We didn't even tell you who's coming up on the show today. Coming up, yes.
Yeah, we never set the scene. We just talked about what we did today.
Yep. Let me jump in. It's Jay Binkley, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. He will be joining us as the Chiefs at 6-6. Do we have a humble Jay Binkley? Do we have a Jay Binkley that's ready? I'm going to run this idea past him. I actually think it's better for the Bills that Kansas City wins this week. I'll explain to Jay when we get there. We'll also be talking, hey, we got a decent game here tonight. What do we do with your lineup? We're all going to be watching Amon-Ra St. Brown and his status, Tim. We will be talking to Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot. Andy Behrens joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. You're welcome to join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. I made an announcement last night in my house. Hey, I'm sitting down to watch Sabres hockey, and boom, had the night, did some work, put it on. Hey, they're up 1-0.
And then?
What the hell? What the hell? For the Sabres, that was... maybe I'm not paying close enough attention, but we get to the end of the first intermission, and don't have me tell you, okay? Paul Bissonnette, Henrik Lundqvist, TNT. TNT, by the way, they do a lot better of putting these shows together for whatever reason. That seemed to be good hockey talk listening to this. And Bissonnette calls the Sabres defense the softest in the league. And here's why. And he's pointing all these reasons of all these guys just standing around, hey, not helping out their goaltender, just dumb clearing passes too, and toss it over to Lundqvist, and he just has a simple explanation. Well, it's just the mindset. Playing tough hockey is a mindset. I'm like, wow, this team has the wrong mindset. I can't dispute that. So what is this screaming for? It's screaming for a coaching change. It really is. And we like some of the guys for Lindy and on the staff and everything, and I don't know what the solution would be, but I just think at this point, are they paying close enough attention to the Sabres as they would to some of their other properties? Because the frustrating thing about that team is you see the talent and then it doesn't translate. But then again, the talent does stupid things, like Darlene, taking a 5-minute major and going like, "What, me? Oh, yeah, you can't board like that from behind." They teach you that in Pee Wee. I shouldn't be getting upset about the Sabres, but then I can get upset about the Amherst, who for some reason cannot win on a Wednesday night. 4 straight Wednesday night home games they have lost, and they lose last night to crappy Utica.
Crappy is FCC evident because they're way worse than crappy.
That was their third win of the year. The Amherst falling behind by a 3-0 score.
They tied it up. They do get a point, but I'm 100% on board that, 1, you can't fall down 3-0. 2, you cannot lose that game.
No, that's so. Let's see if the Amherst can get this together. They go to Charlotte. Let's talk to Bink. Jay Binkley, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. You're welcome to join us at 866-4FAN. 866-4326 here on The Fan Rochester.
Sabres and Amherst coverage all day. Tell your smart device to play 95.7 The Fan, the sports leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Well, turns out Darius Slay will not be coming to Buffalo, as agent Drew Rosenhaus saying that Slay will take a few days away from football to decide if he'll retire. From practice today, A.J. Epineza went in street clothes, not sure why. Christian Benford knows going against he's one of the best here is a challenge in Jamar Chase.
I'm looking forward to it. Just going to make sure we get the dub, though. That's the most important thing, to get the win. He got good connection with the quarterback, got good ball skills, good route runner, so he's a well-talented guy.
Coverage will begin at 9 a.m. this coming Sunday, 1 o'clock, the kickoff Bills in Cincinnati. We will be talking to Jay Binkley, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City, joining us next. Amherst fall to Utica in overtime, the team in Charlotte tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You ever see that meme where it's a painting and it looks like an old guy standing up in the town hall as if he's, the meme is, hey, my opinion, I'm standing alone on this one, and everybody's kind of looking at him. Welcome back to the sports bar. Danger is off today. He'll be back on Monday. My standalone opinion is when it comes to the Chiefs and Texans, I actually think it's better for the Kansas City Chiefs to win. I understand that Bills fans want to take that team out, but listen, but hear me out as we welcome in Jay Binkley from 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. Jay, I don't think whatever you do, I don't think you're winning that division. That the Chiefs, your best and perhaps only scenario is to be a wild card, and for the Buffalo Bills, I would rather, if the Bills ended up, say, the 6 and they have to play the AFC North winner on the road, well, I would rather take my chances in Jacksonville or Indianapolis. I want no part of that Houston defense. Jay, how are you today?
Hey, what's going on, Gene? How we doing? No, it's crazy, who people want people to root for, and you have other fan bases rooting for the Chiefs and Chiefs fan base rooting for various teams. It's that time of year that makes it a little bit fun.
Jay, you're out of the playoffs. If it ended today here, what's the panic level in Kansas City right now?
Well, they've been out of them for the last couple of weeks. And even, had they beat Denver a couple of weeks ago, they still were going to be on the outside looking in. Their problem is the wild card situations. These teams ahead of them had head-to-head victories. Jacksonville, by moving into first place in that division, is what the Chiefs want. The Chiefs want them to win the AFC South, get a tiebreaker over the Houston Texans this weekend, because as far as Indianapolis, you want them to be the wild card. Chiefs have the tiebreaker over them. They have the tiebreaker over the Ravens. So there's certain teams you want to see win the division. Obviously, Buffalo is probably one of those teams. It doesn't look like that's going to happen because if they won, because they have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. So yeah, the Chiefs are in a situation now where you start rooting for teams to win the division.
Yeah, if we're doing the math here, and there are 2 layups on your schedule. You're not losing in Nashville. I don't see that. Vegas, that'll feel like a Chiefs home game the last week. But game against Denver, you've got the Chargers also coming Arrowhead, and we were just talking about this game coming up on Sunday night with Houston. Do the Chiefs have to go 5-0? Would 4-1 cut it, in your opinion, Jay, to make the postseason?
4-1 is extremely dicey. I mean, if you go 4-1, you're thinking about having a lot of other things happen. I think they need to win out. Clearly, they need to win out. Yeah, Tennessee. This was going to be the good time. It was beating Dallas. You beat Dallas on Thanksgiving. You have that mini bye. You get Houston at home, so you get a chance at them. Good defense. That offense is lacking. I mean, they've had some really close games. Heck, they only beat the Titans by 3 points a couple weeks ago. So, yeah. And then the Chargers come in to Kansas City. Different situation with the banged-up offensive line, that team. They beat the Chiefs in Brazil. The Chiefs normally have their number. They're 17-3 against them in the last decade before this game. And then the Denver Broncos on Christmas. Not going to know really what the motivation level. They might have this division already locked up by Christmas, and the Chiefs feel like they owe the Denver Broncos a little bit of revenge in that game. So Chiefs 17-1 in the last 18 at Arrowhead Stadium with Mahomes. So, yeah, they got people right where they want them, but Chiefs are dealing with a lot of injuries, and you keep saying they need to win, they don't. So they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of injuries, and then you look back like, hey, actually not having Rice in the first part of the season, and not like there are other things too, Jay, that you look along the way. How big a factor is it too that you've been playing all these games all these years that maybe just these guys are just overall tired right now?
Well, there could be some of that because, when you've gone to 7 straight AFC title games, it means your season's just going that much longer, and you're going in to the postseason. The core group of guys on this Chiefs team, they played an extra season of football in the last 7 years, like Mahomes and Kelsey and Jones and all these guys. They've played over 20 more games. So you got to think about it. They played a full another season than other NFL teams. So, yeah, it starts to wear on you a little bit. And, they're used to maybe, the ball kind of bounce in their direction. Denver Broncos this year, they're exactly what the Chiefs were last year. If you watch the Broncos and you see how they're winning games, that is exactly the 2024 Chiefs. I mean, 5-game winning. Oh, seriously, 5-game winning drives by Bo Nix. They're winning. They're going to overtime with teams like the Commanders at the end. They're beating the Chiefs at the walk-off field goal. They're winning 13-11 against the Jets in London. They're having close games. They had a close game. They came back and beat the Texans, but they're finding a way to win those games. It's very important. But there's a lot of similarities, both statistically and the way they're playing, to the 2024 Chiefs.
Jay Binkley, 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City. He covers the Chiefs, a good friend of the show. We love sparring, and I don't want to kick a man who's down here. Like, your team at 6-6, and you've won your fair share here, Jay. I look at that Colt game from a couple weeks ago, and you're only in this position because the Colts couldn't finish the job. Now, the Colts, that's the team I would kind of target right there, as you kind of mentioned. Let Jacksonville run away, beat Houston on Sunday night, and then when you look at the Colts schedule, it's like, they're getting the Niners, they get Seattle, they got some divisional games coming up. Other than that pathway right there to overtake the Colts there, are there any other scenarios that you've kind of examined where Kansas City could sneak in and get one of those last wild cards?
I mean, that's going to have to be one right there, is the Colts melting down. I'll say this much, too. I don't think I was talking to you, but the Colts, all these people nationally were talking about how great this team was. Everybody's got their power rankings and stuff. They kept putting them there at the top. And it's like, all right, we'll just slow down here. Let's slow down here. I liken it to Thanksgiving. There's the adults table and the children's table. The Colts are still sitting at the children's table, and they want so bad to sit at that adults table with the Chiefs and with the Bills and with the Eagles. They so bad want to sit at that table. But the problem is they were getting crowned, and they were getting crowned by beating Arizona, beating Miami, beating the Raiders, beating the Titans twice. This is what they were building their season up. Okay, they take 2 first-round picks and say, we got our guy. We're close. We got our MVP quarterback. We'll trade for Sauce Gardner. We've got our quarterback. We've got that one thing that's the hardest thing to find in the NFL. Okay, well, guess what? The schedule got tougher. Then they lost to Pittsburgh, the number 32 pass defense, right? Then they go overseas and lose to to beat the Falcons in overtime. Took it overtime. In those games, Daniel Jones had 7 turnovers. 7 turnovers by himself in those 2 games. Comes to the Chiefs, pees down his leg at Arrowhead Stadium. No first down. It's 18 total yards in the fourth quarter and overtime. Sorry, that's not MVP work. I mean, the Chiefs were battling, putting it right out there in front of them. Colts didn't want to take it and been cautious about this team all year. Are they for real or are they frauds? Well, they're starting to put that fraud shoe on.
Yeah, and look, Jones playing with essentially a broken leg there. I'll give him that credit, but
yeah,
Jay, by dealing away those first 2-round picks, and by the way, Daniel Jones, he's not under contract, so you're in this terrible Kirk Cousins sort of world where, like, okay, he's our guy, but he's not really the guy. That's why, like, the Colts long term, I'm not worried about here.
Well, exactly. But to me, when they made that trade, that signaled to me that, okay, they think they found their guy, and they're buying in the hype. And the one thing about football is you just got to let things settle down and play the season. You can't go through a year and you start believing what everybody's saying about you. You watch the national shows and it's, power rankings, Colts #1. Look how good this team is. They're great. Jonathan Taylor's awesome. Tyler Warren is a great draft pick. What's going to be a future tight end? Well, it's funny because Kelsey at 36 years old had better numbers than Tyler Warren. Although Tyler Warren got all his credit, he's going to be a good player. But it's just funny how the perception of how the Colts were. And it gets that way when you're playing the Titans twice. When you play the Raiders and the Dolphins, you build up this false sense of how good your team is. And, hey, they might be good. And I said this too. I said the Colts might be good. I said, but I'm from the Show Me State. It's where you got to prove it, right? Here's their chance. The chances at Arrowhead Stadium, this is their chance to knock off the Chiefs. And they didn't do it. And
Nope.
3 and outs, no yards, and only 18 total yards in the fourth quarter overtime. Couldn't do it. Now they go to play Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, they've lost 10 straight road games to the Jaguars.
Isn't that the craziest stat? Like, it's not like Jacksonville has been this mighty team over the years. In fact, Jacksonville, one of those wins, that was their only win that year.
Yeah. And they beat them once. It was one of those games in Jacksonville. So I want to believe in the Colts, and I believe they're going the right direction. I do think that injury kind of holds back Daniel Jones. But to me, they're just another Johnny-come-lately, team looking good. But can they put it together? Do they have the guy? Do they have the quarterback can win in the postseason? It's one thing to get there. It's another thing to have the quarterback that can get you through these games.
Jay, if you can kind of weigh in, we have a little bit of a divide on our show about this Bills story today, and I'll fill you in. And for anybody else who hadn't heard, so Darius Slay claimed off of waivers from Pittsburgh. Don't know the whole specifics as to why it ended in Pittsburgh, but they granted him release. And then we found out yesterday in the 5 o'clock hour on our show, like, holy crap, the Bills picked him up, and we discussed that. And like, well, as a corner 4, that makes a lot of sense, and the Bills moving on from their corner 4. Today we learned that Darius Slay is not going to report to Buffalo. Yeah. Now Tim says this is embarrassing for the Bills organization. For me, it's like, no, okay. He doesn't want to come here. You kind of move on. Jay, what are your thoughts there on Slay saying, no, I don't want to be a Buffalo Bill?
Well, we've seen this happen before, Gene, haven't we? Where guys get moved and all of a sudden they don't want to play anymore. And we've seen that. I would have thought Buffalo would have been a great place for him. He wants to go to a place and have a chance to play in the postseason, get a ring, or does he not want to play football anymore? I mean, obviously, if he doesn't play here, if I was another team, I would question it down the line bringing him in because, you have a chance right here with Buffalo to go out, get some playoff wins, and who knows, get a ring, whatever the scenario might be. But I don't know. But we've seen this before, haven't we, Gene, where guys, get moved to somebody else and they, quote, all of a sudden retire. We saw that again this year. I can't remember who that was, but a player was traded and then said, I'm done.
Yeah, but this is waivers, so that's why I'm like, no harm, no foul, and you can always bring back the guy you just released. You've talked, you've been friends with some NFL executives here, Jay, and we're just trying to, the behind-the-scenes process. If a player gets waived, and the agent for Slay is Rosenhaus, does Rosenhaus call all the teams not named Philadelphia and say, hey, please don't put a claim in on my player. I'm asking you as a favor. Does that sort of stuff go on? And if so, did the Bills ignore it? We're just trying to figure out how, this whole situation came about.
Yeah, I think there's some wink stuff that goes on and stuff. I remember a couple years ago when the Chiefs really wanted Terrell Suggs. And, you got to clear waivers, going to go back to Baltimore. Where's it going to be? The Chiefs are actually sitting really good on the waiver wire now. But, yeah, I think there's some of that unspoken, don't take our guy, we want to grab him. But let's be honest, some teams don't care. Some teams just go out and get whoever they want. And they should have that feeling. Make their team better. But, yeah, I was a little bit surprised not seeing there. Do I think this goes on? Do I think this kind of wink stuff goes on with agents? 100% I do.
Jay Binkley, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City, our guest. Looking at the AFC, we just said, okay, the Colts, they're on fraud alert. We have our concerns about Denver, right? What about the Patriots, Jay? Is this team legit? Are we considering them a Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, I would have to. Just the way that quarterback, and everybody's looking for that guy, and they always say, well, it's got to be that offensive-minded head coach to go with that quarterback. You need that quarterback-coach combination. And while I agree with that, it's kind of like, does it have to be offensive minded? And I say no. It just has to be the right guy, because the right guy is Mike Vrabel. And look at what they're doing as the head coach. Because you look at all these guys and let's find the right offensive coordinator coach to go together. Well, yeah, it works in Kansas City, but that doesn't mean it works everywhere else. Look at McDonald in Seattle, defensive-minded guy, former Ravens offensive coordinator. Look at McDermott. You look at John Harbaugh, has history with defense and special teams. But Vrabel has that team believing in him, man. That's the one thing. That coach-quarterback kind of relationship is pretty strong. So, yeah, I respect what that team's doing because Vrabel's a heck of a coach. And so, yeah, I'd say that they're for real. I actually think the Broncos are for real too. I know they're squeaking by games, but good teams find a way to win, and they have that attitude where they're finding the ways to win. Bad teams will lose those type of games, but good teams find a way to win those games.
But with the Patriots, this discussion, all right? May is now the betting favorite for MVP, which I think is nuts considering he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game this season, which is nuts. Now, before Buffalo, all right, you beat Carolina and you beat Miami. Here are the teams on this 10-game winning streak after the Bills win. Ready? New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, Atlanta, fraud, Tampa Bay, the Jets, the Bengals, and then the Giants, who just kind of trip literally over themselves thanks to their kicker. Yeah. Like, they haven't played anyone. And maybe you want to give them Tampa Bay winning that game on the road. Maybe the Buccaneers are a playoff team by default. But Jay, there was 1 year with Vrabel took the Titans and in with a 1 seed, and then they got knocked off by Cincinnati and said, go home. To me, okay, you're New England. That's a team that, facing them from the Bills standpoint, no Bills fan should be afraid of the New England Patriots.
Well, the one thing about it is I know that we look at their schedule because they talked about the Colts schedule and stuff, but I look at kind of how they're made up and how they're wired, how they're playing, and I do think they're better than the Colts. Like just watching, kind of the structure of that team. They're more disciplined. They do things, it's kind of that same way that had them win all that time. But, yeah, I look at what they've done. I honestly, if you had a neutral field, I'd take Buffalo over anybody in that division, to be quite honest with you. But, yeah, they benefited from that schedule 100%. Do I think they're better than the Colts when they played similar schedules? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, your thoughts too on what we saw Buffalo and Pittsburgh, Jay. That game. Imagine you're in Western New York just sitting back with a fine cocktail, watching, man. Or maybe you go on your deck and you're lighting up a victory cigar. There is no more satisfying way in this league just to pound a team, and I don't know why that is. You could win games in different styles, but just to see and then to hear the Steeler fans boo when Renegade is played, to hear the chants of fire Tomlin. Is that it for Tomlin in Pittsburgh from what you saw there in that game Sunday, Jay?
Yeah, that was embarrassing. I mean, the Bills just totally manhandled the Steelers. It's something we're not used to seeing. Now, they've had problems. Again, this was the number 32 defense against the pass for the longest time. They were just doing things that are un-Steeler-like. But, yeah, I think Tomlin is honestly a great coach. But it's just like when Marty was here in Kansas City. They were winning a lot. And they were the winningest team in the AFC in the 90s, but they weren't winning postseason games. They weren't winning playoff games. They had great teams, and they would be like, the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, and they'd get to the postseason and just collapse. But it's because eventually that message got stale. Like eventually you just needed that fresh voice or just needed to change the scenery. And I think Mike Tomlin is getting to that part where he needs to change the scenery. I think he's a great coach, 100%, but I think he needs a change of scenery because what's going on in Pittsburgh right now ain't it.
No, it's Jay Binkley is our friend, 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City. Jay, if there's some people rooting against the Chiefs here. If it falls apart for the Chiefs, what happens next? Are there any changes this offseason, or is it just rest up and we're going to keep the band here together?
I think I don't know. It depends. The special teams coach has been here since day one. That's an area they really need to get better. Here's the thing, though, Gene. Statistically, you look and say, all right, well, where do they need help? Well, maybe, not missing players. And this week they're probably going to be without 3 starting offensive linemen in this game. But you go what the Chiefs are. They're number 1 as far as, fourth in passing offense, number 2 in points per drive for an offense. Their defense has been fantastic this year. The scoring defense is where up there 9th in the NFL. That has slid down from where it was. They're the number 1 team on 4th down. They've gone for it more times on 4th down than they ever have been. They're number 1 on 4th downs defense. Dallas picked up a 4th down on the Chiefs. It's the first one they've given up since September. They're at 27%. During Mahomes' career, he's at 57%. So you look at all these stats and say, is it because you were missing your number 1 wide receiver the first 6 weeks, and 3 of those weeks you didn't have your number 2 receiver because Xavier Worthy got hit in Brazil when he ran in the Kelsey on the 3rd play? Is it that? They're not getting their butts kicked. They're losing by a field goal here, a field goal there. All their games have been within a touchdown. They've all been 3 points, 3 points, 6 points. They're all close, and they all had a chance to go at the end. Buffalo Bills, Travis Kelce had a ball bounce out of his hands in the end zone, would have been a touchdown, but instead Philadelphia goes the other direction. They should have won that game. There's just so many games here and there, and I get it's the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but they're that close. And I do think they'll keep the band back together. I do think they do some changes, maybe special teams coach. That's a direction they want to go. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating. But yeah, I don't think that not having Rice, I think, hurt this team.
So, Jay, when we get to Rochester, I do want to take you to Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub in East Rochester. That is
Love that.
How are our friends at Smokehouse in Kansas City? Because that meal I've been thinking about here for months, Jay.
They're doing good. They're doing good. I know they're shipping turkeys all over the place on Thanksgiving, shipping turkeys away for everybody to get. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah. And you how about you, Jay?
It was good. We had Chiefs. They, of course, played versus Dallas, and, the numbers came out for it, and I said, you watch. I said, this before that game, I said, we had talked about it last week before Thanksgiving on the shows I was filling in the mornings. That you watch it because the Chiefs right now have the 1, 2, and 3 highest rated games in the NFL. You watch it. They'll have number 1, 2, 3, and 4 after the Cowboys game. Listen, the Cowboys play every year, but it took the Chiefs to send this thing over 36% from the previous record, up 46% from last year. The NFL uses the Chiefs, man. They got them playing on Thanksgiving. They're playing on Christmas. They use them. They said, hey, Chiefs, our streaming partners, YouTube, first game ever, Chiefs were on it. Hey, Netflix, put the Chiefs on it, first game ever on Netflix. Hey, Peacock, first playoff game ever, Chiefs on Peacock. Amazon partner, first ever Thursday night game, Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be weird if the Chiefs don't make the postseason. Here's a team that's been their ratings gold, and they had that crappy officiating crew there. Listen, I'm not saying give calls one way or the other. I'm just saying have a professional crew that can work the game. Because I'll be honest with you, Gene,
Jay,
I'm sure you'll agree with me.
Jay.
No,
Jay, this is so rich. This is so rich.
Gene,
Tim, are we rolling on this?
We're always rolling,
Oh
baby.
my gosh,
Gene,
Jay, I'm trying to.
whoa,
Jay, I'm trying to help
They're
you.
America's team.
Walk
America's
yourself. You are on
team.
the ledge. You are not going to win this. Oh my goodness, cry me a river. The Chiefs had bad
America's
officiating.
All their officiating's horrible, but anyway, it's the America's team, man. When you, how else do you explain it? If you're 4 of the top 5 highest rated games, okay, and you're on every single program of a new streamer to the NFL, how can you not say that's not America's team? It was 57 million people watched that game. That's an all-time record, Gene, in the regular season. How can you not claim the Chiefs? Love them or hate them, people are watching them.
That's true. It also helps you bring in a whole different demographic, which I know, we don't maybe want to go down that road and discuss there, but it is a factor too,
How many times they've shown her this year? Twice? Maybe at all total?
No, but Chiefs
Chiefs don't even show her on the scoreboard. They don't do it at all. The president even said we haven't showed her once this year. They've only showed her, I think, twice on television this year, so I know that's not it.
Yeah, same thing. Well, like you never see Haley on the scoreboard in Buffalo either. You want to respect families and significant others. That's
100%,
it, Jay.
100%.
Like
You keep it close. But think about this. Though,
Just like, let me make sure I heard that correctly. That the Chiefs lost to the Cowboys in part because of the officials?
You know it was bad. Listen, I hate to blame the officials, and I tell people it's not blaming the officials. But when you're sitting here and you have all these people saying, "Oh my God, the Chiefs got job," and you go back and watch this, Chiefs had 5 pass interference calls in the second half. Gene, that's the most in the NFL in 35 years. The most in 35 years. And when you go back and watch these, and you have the rules analysts from television go back and do this, and like specialists, they'll say, I don't think 3 of those are actually penalties. 2 of them were. So, yeah, maybe you had some legitimate, but the rest of you didn't. But it's just funny. It's just funny, this whole narrative the Chiefs get all their calls. I've been telling you it's BS forever. I told you the Chiefs are always one of the highest penalties teams in the NFL, but people want to buy into narratives. They want to buy into narratives.
You just admit in the 2024 season, the one that just completed back in January, that the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game against the Buffalo Bills were the beneficiary of some calls. Jay, will you admit that?
No, not. I will say this, though. Remember when Buffalo and Maxwell Hairston was saying that Xavier Worthy was giving him a tell? You guys remember that?
No.
Buffalo can't see the game. It was a big topic here because Hairston came out at the end of the game for Buffalo, and he said, I knew when they were running and knew when they were passing because Xavier Worthy was
yeah. So the tell. Got it. Yep.
First of all, that was dumb.
Like somebody like, hey, rookie, shush.
Yeah.
Or like we say in Italian, stada zit. Yeah.
Well, it's like you don't think the Chiefs had tells on other teams for 7 years? Do you not think the Chiefs had a tell on Buffalo on the quarterback sneak and the tush push? They knew exactly the direction Josh Allen was running. They knew he was going to sneak it to the left, right?
But you didn't have your anybody on the defense say that after the game. I get your point.
No, they're going to say that.
I get your point, Jay.
No, but if I'm Andy Reid, if I play him again, I'm having Worthy. I'm saying, all right, here's the deal. I want you to do exactly what you're doing, but make it look like we're going to pass and we're going to run.
Right, yeah. Like now you're setting them up for the rope-a-dope. Yeah. Jay, when are you on? People can check you out in the Odyssey app or the Character Concerns podcast as well.
Well, every week we do a draft, which, by the way, it's a lot more spicier now, Gene, because it's 13th in draft order. So when you're talking 13th, you're talking a lot more options than sitting at 31 and 32. So, yeah, we do it every week on Mondays. Just put it out. Don't have a show tomorrow night. It's our holiday party. I would have been on tomorrow night talking Chiefs action there, but the holiday party, or the Christmas party, so we're not doing a show tomorrow night. So no Houston Texans smack.
Ah, yes. Well, we'll be thinking you Sunday night, Jay, there. Good luck to your Chiefs. Go beat the Texans. That would help out Buffalo a little bit for potential tiebreakers. And look, in a world where maybe the Bills are the 6th seed or the 5 and the Chiefs are the 7th, who knows? Maybe these two teams will somehow find a way to the championship game again. Jay, appreciate all your time, buddy, as always.
Chiefs got a lot of work to do, man. I mean, if there's one of these games they drop, I know theoretically could make you do it, but this team's not going to do it. They have 3 starting offensive linemen out. It's going to be rough for them. They've got to win every single game. Not even a doubt.
Jay, be well. Let's do this again soon.
All right, Gene. Take care, my friend.
Bud. Jay Binkley, who we have kind of a fun relationship, but I think that is so absolutely rich that he unknowingly just complained about officiating.
I knew that was coming. I just did not expect
and I looked over at your face, and you and I, we started chuckling at the same time. You're watching on YouTube. We were like,
I knew it was going to happen. I just wasn't sure when it was going to happen.
I know.
And I'm glad it did at the end, and it went way longer than I expected it to. A few things to unpack here. The players that retired at half, all Eagles related, or not at half. I'm sorry. After a trade, all Eagles related this year. Jair Alexander, 1 week, gone. Zadarius Smith, 1 week, gone. And now Darius Slay, not to the Eagles, and now he's gone.
You said one at half. No,
I fixed it.
Yeah. So gotcha.
And then Amari Cooper retired at half. Or I keep saying that, but Amari Cooper retired after a trade. There were 3 this year.
Yeah.
And then Darius Slay claimed.
Yeah. So it's more of those. Okay, do I really want to go and you be the new guy? And it's Yeah, it is kind of both physically and mentally demanding. We'll talk more about this. We'll take some of your calls, 866-4326. Darius Slay says, no, I'm not coming to Buffalo. All right. We figure this out. There was an injury, too, we got to get to here concerning the Buffalo Bills, which, all right, this is a position they were already thin here, or is it an injury? It's something from practice today, looking to get more details on. Again, our phone number, 866-4FAN. He's in for danger today. Tim Schneider, I'm Gene Battaglia here on The Fan.
You're listening.
And in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Cornerback Darius Slay claimed off of waivers by the Bills yesterday. Today we learned he's not going to come to Buffalo, declining this. His agent Drew Rosenhaus says that Slay will take a few days away from football to decide if he'll retire. From practice today, A.J. Epineza was in street clothes as the Bills' official practice report has yet to come out. Shaq Thompson talking about that Cincinnati Bengal offense.
They got their franchise guy back, right? Burrow's one of those guys who could rip it anytime he wants to. He's a smart quarterback. He can pull down and run. He has both his weapons back. He has good tight ends. He has a good running back, so it's going to be a challenge for us. But at the end of the day, we got to go out there and play Buffalo Bills way.
Week 14 begins tonight. It's Dallas and Detroit. Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot will join us later this hour. We'll talk some fantasy football. Gene Battaglin, sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
I mentioned the update. Hey, we're waiting for the injury report. I mean, you look for any excuse to play the breaking news sounder here, Tim. So.
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah, breaking news.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
A.J. Epineza has a foot injury. Gets a TMP. Also not practicing today. Joey Bosa, Terrell Bernard. Not surprising. They're kind of considered week to week. And Josh Palmer, once again, not practicing today. Limited. Dalton Kincaid, from the video we saw practice today, he was out there in a knee brace. You also have Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins still remaining limited. Everyone else full participants today. But, okay, now if you're without Bosa and you're without Epineza, Shaq Lawson, this guy Fox, who's coming up for this game? Look, this isn't Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers you're playing. This is Joe Burrow and a running game and a receiver that's really, really good, and one you think that's going to be back too as he's going through concussion protocol, and T. Higgins. So, pass rush might be kind of an issue this week as we're really not sure. I'm looking to get more details here on A.J. Epineza missing today's practice. You would assume that happened some point yesterday in practice because he practiced yesterday, or at least at the beginning, and he was not on the injury report.
The Bengals aren't good enough for the Bills to have to scramble. The Bills could still get away with this, but it does cause concern not knowing how they're going to look come Sunday. You want to have things buttoned up, ideally week 1 through 17, but injuries happen. It's the NFL. Now it's Thursday, and what you had planned on, you don't know if you're able to execute.
Yeah, so if it's not Epineza and you don't have Joey Bosa, so you would have Greg Rousseau, Javon Solomon, and those would be your only defensive ends. So you might be promoting two guys from the practice squad, being Shaq Lawson and the guy Fox they picked up too. Or, like we saw at some points, Daquan Jones playing on the end. I don't think that's ideal either. So a lot of Greg Rousseau, a lot of Javon Solomon, and a position where, hey, maybe they're not all A+ there, but we all kind of agreed, all right, there's a lot of different options. But my gosh, you realize you have 4 guys on IR from the defensive line right now. Oliver, Hoyt, Landon Jackson you forget about, and Dwayne Carter as well. So of those guys, right, 2 of each, 2 on the outside, 2 on the inside, and Joey Bosa questionable, and now we don't know what the deal is with A.J. Epineza, but something else we got to keep track of. You're welcome to call us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We'll talk some fantasy football coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Our good friend Andy Behrens back in his normal time slot. We were off, of course, for Thanksgiving week, and then the previous Thursday, 2 weeks ago. Oh, yeah, that was the night the Bills lost down in Houston. So it's been a minute since we actually talked to Andy in in his normal time slot. Love people that interact with the show, whether that's you give us a call or on X. Greg writing in, Gene and Tim, I can't with this guy complaining about the Chiefs getting bad officiating. My eyes can't roll back far enough. Do you really? See, part of me thinks Jay is trolling us by bringing that up, and then I'm thinking, no, that wasn't a troll. He really thinks that the Chiefs lost that game against the Cowboys because of the officiating.
It's multifaceted there because he knows that we're going to bite on it, but he also believes it. So he's able to talk about it and believe, you could tell in his voice he 100% was sincere about it, but he knew that by bringing it up, it was going to get us to bite. And here we are still talking about it. And I'm glad Greg is listening because part of the things that there was to unpack there, and I don't want to segue too deeply, but you mentioned Smokehouse out in Kansas City. And you said that you've been thinking about that for months.
Yeah.
You crushed me for thinking about college every day. You're thinking about a meal?
Well,
come on. And Greg talked about it, so that's why I got to bring it back up.
Well, okay, right. So that's no, it was just me giving a shout out to Jay there for being a good friend there. That's all that was.
Well, you're a good friend to me.
So there it is. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X. That is our handle is The Fan Rochester on that. So the Bills and Chiefs, not much has changed in terms of the betting line. As we'll try to figure out a little bit more about the defensive line. But again, your headline story today, if you haven't heard and you're just getting in your car, I thought this was a great move. And some Bills fans didn't. I taken a lot of different opinions saying, no, this is a guy who's going to take away time for Maxwell Harrison. I'm like, no, that's not it at all. If the Bills are trying to fortify the roster and they get an injury at that position when we get to the postseason, okay, well, would you trust a guy who has actually won a Super Bowl and maybe doesn't have all the skills, or a guy who's a little bit younger, who has been here, but he's basically the 53rd guy on the roster? I think it was a good move, considering there was no price really to pay to go and claim Darius Slay. And we talked about that with Jay Binkley too. Like, how did this all happen? How did you put in a claim, but then you're kind of getting, I don't want to say slapped in the face, but he's certainly entitled to say, no, I'm not coming to Buffalo. I would rather retire. Now, that hasn't been officially said, but this is the statement from Drew Rosenhaus. And, of course, there's Rosenhaus in the middle of this. And, the sales part of me, says, all right, he's buttering up the Bills here a little bit. Slay is honored that a first-class organization like the Bills claimed him, but he's going to take some time away from football right now and decide in the next few days if he wants to keep playing. Okay, then where do we go from here? If he doesn't report, what kind of list do the Bills, this is uncharted territory for where we are. And I almost have to look up during the commercial breaks, what kind of list could the Bills actually put him on? It sounds like to me Rosenhaus is basically baiting the Buffalo Bills. All right, you know what? Release my client and do what he wants, and that is I want to play in Philadelphia. And apparently that was the story here, right? The Darius Slay asked to be released after Asante Samuel Jr. had been promoted to the Bills, and he didn't even play in that game. I don't know where the story goes from here. I'm just fascinated because the bottom line is the Bills need a fourth corner. They just let go of Darius Slay. So do you promote a Dane Jackson from the practice squad? That's a possibility, I guess, but does anybody really feel good about that? I don't know where the Bills go from here, but I would just kind of suggest that now that it's out there, now that you've kind of figured out, all right, we should really bring in another corner, why not go look at somebody else's practice squad?
Well, there's that makes a lot of sense to go try to do. You look at practice squad, you look at bringing in people that will improve your roster immediately. If you can improve your roster through other means, which they tried to do yesterday, and they were basically told no. So it makes it tough because a guy like that shouldn't be able to dictate. At 34 years old, you want to go where you want to go, but also you don't get to decide where you get to go. So
you
now
asked for
sit
your
and wait.
release. This is the process, and you didn't clear waivers. So do you want to continue to play in this league? I mean, the Bills, hey, you don't want to play here? I'm not doing the guy any favors. You're
Absolutely
retired.
not.
You're
Especially
retired.
to another
like,
contender.
if Rosenhaus starts to try to use his way, well, this will cost you with my other clients, well, then you know what? F you. That's what I would say to Brandon Beane. That's why when I see that load of crap in the beginning of the statement, Slay is honored that a first-class organization like the Buffalo Bills. Okay, he didn't want to come to Buffalo. All right, fine. Mike and Seabree is joining us. If you have an angle on this I'm missing or something to add, you're always welcome at 866-4FAN. Mike, how are you today, bud?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah. So, listen, today, remember when people used to get drafted and go to the CFL, and then that team would, I'm thinking of like Raheem Ismail, right? He got drafted by Oakland. He went to college football, to the Canadian League, and Oakland owned his rights.
Mm-hmm.
So is that similar to what would happen with Slay? Do we own his rights or something like that now? Because, I mean, we got him off of waivers.
Yeah, so the analogy here, the situation that's closest to this, and it wasn't a waivers thing, but it was hey, we just signed you. Anquan Bolden. Do you remember Anquan Bolden, the receiver? Comes to Buffalo, plays in a preseason game in Philadelphia. Wasn't very good. And then, you know what? I don't want to be here. And I think that was Tyrod might have been the quarterback that year, if I'm not mistaken. And then all of a sudden it's kind of leaked that he wants to play in New England and somewhere else. And the Bills were very clear at that point. No, we own your rights, and you're retired. Mike, thank you, Mike. Yeah, the Anquan Bolden situation, he never played again in this league. And it's not apples to apples because that was during training camp. This is at the end of the season. That was, hey, maybe we keep you and maybe we try to trade you. Bolden was, I think if I remember the story, yes, he wanted to retire, but then no, maybe he had second thoughts. Maybe it was through back channels like, oh, maybe I can go play with the Patriots or whatever it is. He didn't look like he was all there, in my opinion. It looked like in his short time in Buffalo, it looked like kind of the end of the line. We've seen a lot of guys like that over the years. Anquan Bolden, Reggie Bush. There's been a lot of finger quote names that have come in through Buffalo, and at the end of their career, it's like they have nothing left. And Darius Slay at this point, I would not do the guy any favors. I'm sorry. You cannot set that precedent in the league if you're Brandon Beane. Like, okay, you don't want to be here. Fine, we release you.
Yeah, it makes no sense for the Bills to give somebody, one, a player a favor, but two, help another team that they're competing for a Super Bowl with. Like, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. They should not be afforded an opportunity to improve the roster through the means of the Buffalo Bills. If he wants to go, he's from Georgia. If he wants to go, and I don't even know if he cares about Atlanta, but
no.
If he wants to go to Atlanta, fine. You let him go play out the string with 5 games with the Atlanta Falcons because they're a non-factor in this. I get that. But you're not giving him up to go to a team that you may end up seeing in a playoff scenario, no matter the circumstances, even if it's a team that is not going to maybe win the Super Bowl. But any team that is going to benefit from Darius Slay, the only team doing that should be the Buffalo Bills. They claimed him. He's theirs. Let him rot or let him contribute.
Well, this is like now, but the way Rosenhaus phrased that, it's like, okay.
He's buttering up to say, hey, go away.
Do you want to be here or not? It also leaves in here's one thing that cannot happen. If like, hey, my client, could use a little bit more money. No, not at this point. You're going to go on the retired list here. You either report, and if you don't like it, go talk to your union. It's right here in the CBA. If you ask for a release, we have a process called waivers, and then we will pay you whatever is owed, and the Bills were willing to do that. Now, mind you, the Steelers had paid the majority of that thanks to a bonus, so that's why it was a great deal for Buffalo. I don't know. We could speculate all the way and saying, hey, he doesn't like cold, or I don't know.
He doesn't like cold. He's going to go hang out in Philadelphia.
Well, he played in Detroit all those years, and granted, it was in a dome, but Monday through Saturday, you're walking around outdoors. Pittsburgh gets awfully cold too, so that can't be it. It was, I want to be an Eagle. Okay, this is
And that's fine.
This is my theory on this. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody, but hey, they're promoting Asante Samuel Jr., and I understand this kid's better than me. I'm in Pittsburgh, and by kid, he's 26, but Slay's 34 at this point. The Steeler team, I want to be in Philadelphia. Drew, what can we do? Well, you can ask for a release. We can ask for that, but you do that, here's what could happen. Here is the risk. Now, when we talked to Jay Binkley, and I didn't want to say who it was, but I've known Bink enough where he is actually – he's friends with an NFL executive, right? So that's something that I can't pick up the phone and call Brandon B and say what's going on. So, but Binkley said, yeah, there's some of this backdoor stuff that would go on, and that would be my question: is if that was kind of the ruse all along, does Drew Rosenhaus pick up the phone and call 30 other teams and say, don't claim my player? The Bills don't have to oblige by that.
Right.
You don't have to listen to that.
If Darius Slay makes the Bills better, and he does or did, then Brandon Beane is not at fault for this. It's just crazy the way that it played out because he did the right thing and he still has nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and anybody like, oh my gosh, that's unfair to Marcus Ingram. No,
it is.
Not really. It's a cruel business. Like, people get cut this is football. You get cut, you lose jobs. It's very cruel. And what's his market value right now? I'll tell you, it's nothing. Nobody claimed him. We passed the deadline. And correct me if I'm wrong. Jamarcus Ingram claimed? No? Okay, then the Bills bring him back.
It's not even Shefty worthy of a tweet, so
no,
we
it's
might
not
find
even,
it in an hour.
Right. So, back end of this roster, kind of flimsy. And for anybody that wants to say, well, this was a dumb move to begin with, I would point to the AFC Championship game last year, as we did yesterday. Like Kyrie Irving tripping over his own shoelaces. Like, this is something that was preventable. Kyrie Irving's not here anymore, but do you really rely on Jamarcus Ingram? That's all. We've got our buddy, Andy Barron's coming up. Gene Battaglia, along with Tim Schneider today here on The Fan.
update.
Turns out corner Darius Slay will not be coming to Buffalo, as agent Drew Rosenhaus says that Slay will take a few days before deciding if he'll retire or not. The Bills are going to be shorthanded on the defensive line. We knew that Joey Bosa is week to week. Today, we learned that A.J. Epineza now is a question mark. He did not practice today. He's got a foot issue. Christian Benford knows he's going against one of the best here in Jamar Chase.
I'm looking forward to it. Just going to make sure we get the dub, though. That's the most important thing, to get the win. He got good connection with the quarterback, got good ball skills, and good route runner, so he's a well-talented guy.
We will talk to Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot coming up next. Week 14 begins tonight. Dallas is in Detroit. The Amherst fall to Utica in overtime. The team in Charlotte tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I'm just curious if our guest here ripped off his own shirt or he waited in line. Was it tacos or hot dogs or something? But Bears fans fired up for good reason. Andy Behrens, fantasy expert. It's got to be fun, Andy, when your team is on this much of a heater. How are you today?
It's actually a blast. I was right outside of Wiener Circle, the hot dog place that is giving away free food because Ben Johnson partially disrobed. I was outside Wiener Circle a couple days ago, and it was like every news van in the city was there as well. Huge line of Bears fans loving their encased meat and loving the team. Life is good, actually.
Yeah, and a head coach that has the self-awareness to know that I'm going to do this for the people. Now, Danger is off today. He's got some other things to tend to in our company, but I'll just tell you my perspective on Friday, Andy. So I've got another job. I call college hockey, and that was Black Friday, right? And so we had an afternoon game, and I can't be looking at my phone when I got something else to go. So I'm totally off the radar, right? I don't know what is going on. After I get done with my job, I turn on my phone, and all of a sudden, all the text alerts from Danger going off. I'm like, oh, this must be going really, really good here. The Bears here, fantasy wise, going to Green Bay. I always look at the Bills and Chiefs games, Andy, and I think, boy, this is going to be a point fest. And one time it was in that 13-second game. But is this going to be a game coming up in the late afternoon window on Sunday where maybe it actually be a little more ball control? Is it buyer beware when it comes to fantasy? How are you looking at Bears and Packers from a fantasy matchup coming up this Sunday?
It is. I will first of all say that it is very difficult for me to think of this game in fantasy terms because I'm pretty wrapped up in this Bears season at this point. I think on the Bears side, their identity and what they want to be was just on full display against Philadelphia. And we've seen them do it a couple of other times this season. The New Orleans games is a great example where, like, if a team allowed them to just run the ball all day, run the ball 40 times, they were going to do it, and they were happy to do it. The fact that they were actually able to do it to the Eagles' defensive front and controlled the game so fully, I don't know. I didn't even feel like the running backs had to actually do any heavy lifting. It was all done for them. They got free runs to the line of scrimmage. It's rare that you see the Eagles of all teams treated that way. So I think that's what the Bears want to do. I think the Bears would love to play one of these games that you've seen from them over the last 2 months where it's messy and it's back and forth. But, man, we hit 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it's like a weird score, 19-17. And, like, I think that's the game they want, right?
Yeah.
And they now feel very comfortable sort of in that muck, in that mud. That's what they would like to play. Now, Green Bay probably has a little bit more offensive firepower, right? I think Josh Jacobs is great. The Bears defense had been quite vulnerable to the run early in the year. They've really addressed that. The defense has gotten healthier. I guess, this is a very long way of saying that I would be a little bit surprised if this game doesn't end up pretty close, in the low 20s, high teens, something like that. They are teams that are very much feeling the rivalry right now. And also, one thing that we've seen from Green Bay is they will rise to the level of an opponent or they will sink to the level of an opponent. But they will more or less play their opponent's game. So I'd be surprised if this thing didn't stay close.
Yeah, Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot joining us as Week 14 begins tonight, and really it's one of those games we got to be paying close attention to the inactives, and you were probably hurt like I was and some other people when Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down early and doesn't give you a single point, but now he's questionable tonight. So if he's out, there's no question. You take him out of your lineup. The question is, Andy, like, is he good enough? Like, are we trusting? If we see he's active, are we still putting him in here tonight?
Well, that's just the thing. And my whatever, it's not like I have Lions inside sources. I'd be surprised if he plays. The injury was enough to knock him almost immediately out of the Thanksgiving game. I'd be a little surprised if he plays. It's not like they don't have playmakers. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs. You've got Jameson Williams. You've got plenty of talent. I don't think they should worry about that. You wouldn't want Amon-Ra St. Brown to be in a situation where he aggravates this thing or it's not allowed to fully heal. I don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised. That said, he's a top 5 receiver, and you probably have to just swim in your anxiety and worry for a little while and deal with it because, just a run-of-the-mill game from Amon-Ra St. Brown is good enough to be sort of top 20, top 25 at the position. And if he does anything at all, he has a chance to be the top scorer at wide receiver this week. So I would roll with him if he's eventually active. Again, I'd be a little bit surprised if he is, and you just have to deal with the worry.
Another injury note today. Maybe this is going to be, for the rest of the season that Lamar Jackson's so banged up that we're going to see him missing practices here and there. I mean, you're not taking Derrick Henry, but how do you weigh this out, Andy? Because Lamar Jackson was just not good, but then I look at a Steeler defense that was atrocious against Buffalo. So your thoughts on Jackson and the Ravens offense and in these games that always end up with a 15-11 final score, Ravens and Steelers?
I'll be honest. I thought Lamar looked good in the last game. I came away from that game thinking, man, he was one or two weird plays away from putting up 320 and 2 touchdowns. The OPI flag on Zay Flowers was crazy. The fact that Isaiah Likely was stripped inside the 1-yard line going in for a long touchdown, that was wild. Devontae Walker dropped what would have been, I think, like a 60-yard touchdown. Just an unfortunate set of circumstances for Lamar Jackson's fantasy managers, but I thought he looked okay. I actually thought he looked pretty good running the ball, too. It wasn't a huge rushing total, but if he needed to beat a defender to the first down marker, he did. So I thought he looked okay on the field, and it was just dumb luck that he didn't score more in fantasy. So I'm not feeling as bad as a lot of people are. I mean, I see him, and whatever. I'm not saying that people are only looking at the box score. I mean, it was a spotlight game on Thanksgiving, so I'm sure people saw it. But I don't know. I thought his game was a lot better than the raw stats would indicate. So I'm not feeling as panicky as others.
Andy, this shows that I'm in a different position. Danger would have asked. I had a better segue going NFC North here, going from Bears and Packers to the other team, the Lions. Now I'm going to ask you about the Vikings. I should have asked you that next. What do you do here with Justin Jefferson? I mean, you could look at it two ways, right? Maybe they force feed the guy, but that looks so broken. Is there a team from a fantasy standpoint that's been more disappointing this year than Minnesota?
Yeah, the difficult thing there is it is about the quality of quarterback play, and there's no fixing it, right? Mm-hmm. Where even if you think that you can trade for a quarterback at the deadline, that it's rare that actually works out. It did with Joe Flacco, but it's rare. There's no fixing this. We literally just have to hope that they can scheme up some easy buttons, like easy button throws for JJ McCarthy, and he can actually hit those. If he could, if McCarthy can just be I don't know, mildly incompetent instead of flagrantly incompetent. And Justin Jefferson is getting volume. Like the schedule that Jefferson is about to face, we couldn't, if you asked a fantasy expert, hey, design a schedule for Justin Jefferson that maximizes his output in the final month of the season, it would be this one. They face the defenses that allow the third, first, sixth, and second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, right? Washington has been terrible. They give up 8.6 yards per attempt. They got the Lions out there. They got the Giants out there. It doesn't get much easier than what Minnesota is about to face. They just need J.J. McCarthy to put the ball in the air 30 times and to force feed, two really, really good receivers. The matchup screams that I should be ranking Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1 overall, but he's like wide receiver 16 or 17 for me because how can you not be panicky about the quality of quarterback play?
I think it's a crime that the NFL, Andy, still has bye weeks here in December. I thought, especially like this is the last week for most leagues, the regular season in your fantasy league. So taking some of those running backs off the board, and this is why I'm a little skittish on the Chargers, or help us out here. Eagles-Chargers Monday night. Hey, Hampton's back. Oh, gosh, does that mean he's on a pitch count? Does that mean you split time? Oh, we're not going to get more info on this, and by the time maybe if we do, it's Monday night and everything will already have passed. So how do we navigate the Charger offense here? Monday night they host the Eagles.
Yeah, it's such a good question, and they are a team that we are – I mean, if there's a team that is legitimately a cause for panic, it is this one because – the offensive line injuries have left them, Justin Herbert's just about the most pressured quarterback in the league. Life has been rough for him. I thought it looked a little bit better, especially on that first drive against the Raiders, coming back from the break. They were awful before the bye against Jacksonville. But that first drive looked really good. It was long. It was methodical. Everybody was eating. It was fine. And then the next drive, Trey Lance comes out on the field because Justin Herbert has broken his hand. And from that point on, Herbert never under center. Everything was out of shotgun. Really limited in terms of like it even limits the run game because can he even hand off with his left hand? Right? Can he execute a pitch? What sort of things will he be incapable of? It's a real concern for me. And then on top of that, yeah, the line's not great. They're miss Joe Alt. They're missing Slater. It's not good. And I think Kamani Vidal earned at least a share of the touches. He was excellent against the Raiders. Got every yard that was there for him. So I would guess that Hampton comes back to a bit of a job share. I don't know if it's 60-40. I don't know if it's 50-50, but he's not going to have 80% of the work in all likelihood. And that might be fine, but it's a difficult matchup against the Eagles. So I'm generally telling people that if you have pivots from Herbert, from Hampton, I wouldn't be proactive about forcing Chargers into my fantasy lineup right now is basically how I feel.
I don't think Danger and I have asked you a question about the New York Jets for good reason, right? They are who they are, but there is one guy that, all right, the throw-in basically in the Sauce Gardner trade. Are we playing in the flex in this matchup here? A.D. Mitchell here, like is that even worth consideration here, Andy?
It's certainly worth considering because he's a playmaker. There are very few players in the league who received as much buzz during the summer, during training camp, as A.D. Mitchell did. Colts beat writers were all over him. And of course, he face planted when the regular season started. He became a throw-in in the Gardner deal. But he's a talent. Like nobody ever questioned his playmaking ability coming out of college. It was on display earlier this season. I thought even in the game in which he kind of lost his role, you could see the big playability. And we saw that last week with 12 targets, and he houses one of them, a deep shot. That was really good to see. It's the Jets, and how proactive do you want to be about forcing Jets into your lineup? Not very, but he is a talented player. It's not a stay away matchup for that team. So I don't hate it. Like I wouldn't be crazy enough to like, oh man, he's coming off the only big game of his career. Let's put him in my lineup ahead of Justin Jefferson. I'm not doing stuff like that. But if I've had a messy situation at wide receiver 3, I think he's one of the best names out there.
Yeah, we're talking to Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot, fortifying your lineups, optimizing your lineups for this game, and certainly a lot of things we can talk about here, Andy, as we'll wrap up here. The Washington backfield, that was a fun game, like Sunday night. Entertained there. Is Rodriguez kind of the guy there now over Krosky Merritt?
That was a great game. That game was a blast. Really enjoyed it. It was a long week of football too, and it was nice to have one of the final games of the week be of such high quality. Yeah, Rodriguez is the one guy to roster. Like if you could only choose one from the Washington backfield, he's the guy. They also have a pretty friendly schedule down the stretch. It's not perfect this week against Minnesota. But after that, they take a tour of the division, which obviously includes matchups with Dallas and the Giants, and those have been really friendly spots for running backs all season. Rodriguez, the clear preferred rushing option at the goal line. Washington's done this weird thing all year. They did it at the start of the season too when they had Austin Eckler, where like one guy will get the first two series, and you feel like he's the locked-in starter, and then they pivot to somebody else who gets plugged in for a long stretch. And they were doing that earlier with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, but more recently, it's pretty much been Rodriguez, and then they'll sprinkle in Jeremy McNichols when they get in obvious passing situations, when they get in like a 2-minute, 4-minute situation. So I think that's the way it's going to be moving forward. And you can pretty much bank on, 12 to 15 carries for Chris Rodriguez each week. He's a hammer too. He's 225 pounds, and he knows what he is and he knows what he isn't, and you can't arm tackle that guy. And he's really good when they get into goal-to-go situations. So he's probably the Washington Commander who's most likely to find the end zone now in any given week.
For all those years you put on, the judge outfit there, Andy, and it feels like this is one of those weeks where we just kind of do the public service announcement. Like a lot of our listeners, you take this seriously. A lot of leagues are serious. There are some teams that just have kind of quit, right? Like, how much of that do you kind of encounter? The importance here of just making sure for the integrity of your league, you're playing to the end, even though you might have been eliminated here this week.
Yeah, this is there's a lot of directions that I can go with this, but this is a time of year where, like, some of you, it's week 14, you're trying to qualify for the playoffs, maybe you haven't qualified yet. Maybe you need help. Maybe you need an opponent to lose. I'd just go ahead and make sure that I'm checking the lineups of the team that they're playing, right? Just to make sure that, hey, we're still active. We're not a deadbeat manager. We're setting a good lineup. Yeah. Give them a nudge. If they've got somebody in the lineup right now who's injured, who's not playing, I'm attentive to things like that if I've got anything at all on the line. And then I will also be getting into the sort of protocol over the next few weeks of, like, is it really appropriate to be making waiver claims if you're eliminated? It depends on what's at stake in the league. Depends on if there's a last place, certainly if there's a last place punishment, if there's financial incentives to play out the season, I generally think it's fine. But there are situations I know, and there are commissioners I know who will just simply lock teams that have been eliminated because they do not want them wading into the grown-ups table, so to speak.
Andy, always appreciate your advice. And my gosh, we're on to the playoffs coming up next week. Tell everybody about the deep shot, and if they want some advice here to optimize their lineup here this week.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's me. It's Dalton Del Don producing all the content that you're accustomed to over the years. We've got our ranks up on the site right now. Dalton's got sit-start recommendations, DFS recommendations. We had a waiver wire column ran earlier this week. It's all of our favorite stuff to produce and none of the stuff we didn't like doing. And check out the Yacht Club podcast too. It's me. It's Chris Harris. We talked through week 14 ranks this week. I think it was really helpful. I think it was really fun. Yeah,
I'll check that out tonight here, Andy, as we get ready here for an interesting Thursday night matchup. Andy, appreciate the time. Good luck this week.
Hey, good luck to everyone listening. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Andy. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, joining us here in the Sports Bar, formerly of Yahoo, now of The Deep Shot, as we welcome you back in. Gene Battaglia, along with Tim Schneider, as, that's...
Ow. Sorry, heads up.
Ow.
Heads up.
They really hit me.
Tim, you're not even giving me a heads up. What do we got? No, wait a second. This isn't a Tim Schneider like.
No, this is the real one. Remember to hit it again?
Ow! 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 They really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
about accountability here in the sports bar, and I said not worthy of a Schefter tweet. Guess what we got? We got a Schefter tweet. Jamarcus Ingram was claimed by the Houston Texans, and the Bills have a problem now.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry, Andy Behrens. It was a great segment. We usually recap it, but
wow.
Yep, problems here. Tim Settle to IR, Jamarcus Ingram to the Houston Texans, and the Bills without Darius Slay. And now it might be egg on the face. Not a bean, but it just doesn't work out for the franchise.
No, now it backfires completely. Wow.
To a contender of all people. He might not contribute, but
okay.
Man.
The quick thought here is being culpable. When you're putting in a waiver claim, should you call the agent? Should you say there's no... Well, considering you got to make a corresponding move, can't do this in a vacuum.
It makes you wonder, for sure. But if you're trying to improve the team, you do it, and then if it backfires, which it rarely does, but apparently it continues to do so.
Well, I guess, Tim, maybe the lesson here is, okay, you're in the building, you cut the punter. What is a position where very interchangeable, they don't need to practice at all? You release Wisnowski, and you keep the 5 corners, and then he comes into the building, and then you're going to pick up either Wisnowski or another punter, and then you would let go of Ingram. I don't know. I'm stunned. That, to me, is just as surprising as Slay saying, yeah, you know what, I'm good. My gosh, of all places, Houston!
It really makes it hurt even more because we just an hour ago said, oh, we'll just bring him back. He didn't get claimed. Turns out he did.
No, by the team that we consider, and then I will listen to the Denver Bronco argument, we claim they're the best defense in the NFL. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was breaking news worthy. Jamarcus Ingram claimed by the Houston Texans. Boy, strange week here in the sports bar. I'm not even talking about you being here. By the way, your sweater looks like a Steelers sweater.
So what happened was I was told for the holiday party that we went to be festive, and it's a Sabres ugly sweater.
But it's black, though.
It's blue.
It looks okay. You're saying
the lighting.
It's the lighting. All right.
It's a Sabres blue and yellow or blue and gold. So I wore the ugliest thing I could find, especially after last night's performance.
But undone. Let's take your reaction. Jamarcus Ingram, Houston Texan, 866-4FAN, 866-4326 here on the Fan Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Darius Slay will not be coming to Buffalo. His agent Drew Rosenhaus says he's going to take a few days away from football and decide if he'll retire. Meanwhile, this just in, the Bills, the guy they decided to cut for going after Slay, Jamarcus Ingram. Ingram today claimed off of waivers by the Houston Texans. From practice today, the Bills shorthanded on the defensive line. We are new Joey Bosa week to week. Now today, A.J. Epineza not practicing. Epineza has a foot issue. Shaq Thompson talking about those Bengal offenders.
They got their franchise guy back, right? Burrow's one of those guys who could rip it anytime he wants to. He's a smart quarterback. He can pull down and run. He has both his weapons back. He has good tight ends. He has a good running back, So it's going to be a challenge for us. But at the end of the day, we got to go out there and play Buffalo Bills way.
Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amerks. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Yeah, we do have a game tonight, too. It's very interesting. 6-5-1 Dallas, 7-5 Detroit. What's the bigger surprise? I think the fact that Detroit is 7-5. We knew they might take a step back this year, but my gosh, it feels like tonight, loser of this game, that's it. My opinion, and the winner at least gets to fight another week. Welcome back into the sports bar. Danger will be back on Monday. We've had a lot happen this week, right? Had a lot happen today. As we mentioned the update, Slay saying, no thank you, I'm not going to be a Buffalo Bill. I can't hop inside his mind. I can only theorize what this is all about. But if I'm Brandon Beane, I'm sorry, I'm not doing you any favors there. Either you report on time or we're going to put you on a list and you're retired. And that's okay, by the way. If you want to retire, that's the risk the Bills took. And also the real risk the Bills took. See, I was proven wrong instantly. I'm thinking, the Bills, they're going to put Jamarcus Ingram out there, and they could just bring him back. No, they can't. Houston, of all teams, we're not talking about the Bengals or a team with a bad defense. We're talking about a team with arguably the best defense. That's the Houston Texans claiming Jamarcus Ingram. Now, before we get all worked up, about Jamarcus Ingram being let go and the Bills kind of getting caught here with their pants down a little bit, I would just point this out. 12 games for the Bills this year, 5 of them Ingram has been inactive. And you've had injury concerns with Maxwell Harrison. So basically, Ingram hasn't played since the Miami game. I would say this. What the Bills are trying to do is just when we get to the postseason, can you get somebody at corner 4? That's what we're talking about, corner 4, that has a little more experience, can make some plays. We saw what happened when the Bills were banged up in the secondary last year. It was bad. It didn't work, and that is, you can say the officiating, you can say the fourth down play, but in the AFC Championship game loss last year, I would say Christian Benford going out early with a concussion was the number one reason why Mahomes and the Chiefs were able to prevail, and let's not have that happen again. I would just ask Brandon Beane the question, like in a situation where you're putting in a waiver claim, is it customary just to make sure? Reach out to the agent. Hey, we want you. We're going to put a claim in. You don't have to do that. But I'm sure if the Bills knew, they wouldn't have be in the situation here tonight.
You want to add depth. You want to add role players. You want to add veteran leaders. Darius Slay checks all those boxes. But to get rid of somebody and not know that you can get him back, even if he's not a huge contributor, he probably won't contribute at all to Houston. They're too good of a defense for him to actually do something with them. But it prevents the Bills from doing it, and now you have to find that from somewhere else. And with hindsight, of course you don't do it. But knowing that now they have to find it from somewhere else, and sure, they can elevate somebody from the depth chart, or they have to be frugal and find somebody from somebody else's depth or from somebody else's practice squad to add to their 53. But the clock is ticking, and now they have to go to plan C when they could have just kept plan A.
Well, in this is the week where maybe you would have gone with 4 corners, knowing that Cincinnati might like to air it out, but you still could only have 3. You could also bring up a Dane Jackson from the practice squad. There's other options. I would just scour everybody's practice squad. The idea that Asante Samuel has been getting himself right on the Steeler practice squad and then was elevated last week. I don't know if he's elevated to the 53 just as of yet, but the Bills tonight have an open roster spot, so that's something we certainly have to pay attention to. We're talking about corner 4. A bigger concern this week, how about a starting defensive end?
Yeah, what's going on
Wait, whoa. Okay, so we knew that Joey Bosa week to week, and hey, he had the strip sack of Aaron Rodgers, tied for the franchise mark, 5 all-time, tied for the league lead. You've gotten your money's worth from Joey Bosa. It was on that very play. He got a soft tissue injury. That's a bummer. But you know what? You brought Joey Bosa in for January, okay? Those are the types of plays against Rodgers. Kind of sucks you don't have him, but you got to make sure that you play on a soft tissue injury. Guess what? That doesn't heal itself. You have to give it time. Okay, we all understood that. I don't know where this came from today. A.J. Epineza in street clothes at practice today. The Bills listing it as a foot issue. Now, it's Thursday. Maybe it's minor. Maybe it is something. But if Epineza can't go, your starters this week are Greg Rousseau and Javon Solomon. And then what behind? Like you're really promoting defensive ends from the practice. You're only allowed 2, Tim. That's it. So you can't. So forget about promoting somebody else. Again, you can sign somebody to the 53. Now it could be the guy Fox that they brought in to be that, the poor man's version of Michael Hoyt, somebody that can kind of blitz from the outside, high energy guy. Maybe that guy is ready. Was with the Chargers. And the Bills brought him in. He was sitting there on the street. That certainly is a possibility. It could also be good old Shaq Lawson. I couldn't believe that the Bills actually brought back Shaq Lawson, but here we are. That if we're evaluating the options, Tim, we're very thin on the defensive line. So where we could get worked about Slay and Ingram, and it's kind of interesting. And to me, it's interesting, like the backroom dealings and how did this all fall apart. But your bigger issue, clearly, right now, is defensive end.
It is. They've got some practice squad options on there. You just named them all. And there is now, technically there is not an opening on the 53 because Slay is still part of that. They have to figure that out, whether they exempt him or just straight out release him. But currently he is on the active roster. They have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's a good point to make too, because how does that all work? He would go on some list.
They have to either throw him on a list or give him what he wants. And giving him what he wants is even worse.
Well, you can't do that. And the precedent, there's plenty of precedent. The one I came up with was Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden, you may have forgotten, and if you did, I don't blame you because it was, he was here for a blip. He was at Fisher one summer. Hey, that's really cool. There's Anquan Bolden. And this is a young Bills team, and he goes out there, plays a preseason game in Philadelphia, doesn't look quite right, comes back, hey, I want to retire. No harm, no foul, no big deal. Have a nice life. You're great career for Anquan Bolden. It's like a month later that the Bills have to remind everybody that we own the rights to Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden just can't retire and then go be with a different team. Now, there's one player that used that route. Hall of Famer no longer with us. Junior Seau. Junior Seau retires from the Chargers.
I forgot about that.
Kind of goes over to the Dolphins, right? And then retires, disappears. And then all of a sudden ends up with the Patriots. And why? Did the Dolphins just want to do right by Junior Seau? He ends up playing his final days in I didn't mean it like that, ending his career with the New England Patriots. I guess if we're talking about a Hall of Famer, we're talking about Darius Slay.
I could be wrong on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll know. There was a lot going on with him at this time. Didn't Richie Incognito say no and then end up here? Originally he said no.
No, that's not accurate because he was actually here before he went to Miami. And then, so when he came back as a starter, that was the second go-around in Buffalo.
Right, but didn't he say no to that? For something, I don't know. I thought that
I
he
don't
said
know. I'd
no.
have to look that one up.
But I remember something, and again, there was a lot going on with him in his career at that time, but I thought that he originally said that he was good on coming here, and then Rex Ryan did some finagling.
No, I'd have to look that one up.
All right.
866-4FAN, 866-4326 is our phone number. You can write to us on Twitter, The Fan Rochester. Fun show today where we talked to Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy. We talked a lot of good things with him today about tonight's lineup. And again, his advice with Amon-Ra St. Brown, we'll check it. He'd be shocked if he's actually in the lineup tonight. So also we talked earlier today with Jay Binkley from 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City.
I do wonder, and this is all hypothesis. It's only been 24 hours, and we thought that we had Darius Slay in the fold here in Buffalo. What if, because that Slay announcement this afternoon came around lunchtime, what if in that time frame Houston said, "Oh, the Bills are exposed. We're just going to go add this guy"?
Houston has to make a corresponding move too, though. That's where I would say
they did. Tim settled to IR.
Oh,
also a Bill.
Okay, also, but I missed that. So
they had an opening because they knew that they were putting him on IR.
Well, it's one of those. Do we want to elevate somebody, or I don't know. Houston's doing that to jam Buffalo. Houston has the tiebreaker over the Bills right now. So as long as they pull even in the win column, we're talking about corner 4 here. Tim writing in to me. You can write to us on X too. Brandon Bean with egg on his face.
I don't know if I'd go that far. He did the right move. It just failed miserably.
Well, we talk. I hate the cliche due diligence. Do your due diligence. Okay, yeah. If you're looking to take a job or pick a college or mortgage a house or whatever, sure, you're doing your due diligence. What is the due diligence here for Brandon Bean in putting in that waiver claim? I just like to know what is the behind the doors thing. It's interesting that Rosenhaus, how many agents would put out a statement today about this? Only that, very few, but certainly Rosenhaus did. And okay, yeah, it's your client, and he's got a first class organization. He called the Buffalo Bills, blah blah blah.
That might have hurt him though. The tinfoil hat there, by putting that out, it means that the Bills don't have the guy that they thought they were getting. They don't have the guy they got rid of to get this guy. I don't know. And again, it could just be a conspiracy, or it just might be, we're the Buffalo Bills. We never get things to go our way, even when we have everything going our way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And again, it is corner 4. It's not a huge marquee piece, but it's still something that they have to solve on top of these things that are coming about in practice today, not having a defensive end. It's a compounding problem.
The real issue is the defensive line here. The real issue is you got to get pressure on Joe Burrow. The real issue here is maybe you're without Epineza on top of Bosa. Is Javon Solomon ready to step up? Who's the next guy up from the practice squad? Can you generate pressure from the inside? This is where Sean McDermott's going to really have to roll his sleeves up here. And McDermott gave an interesting quote this week on Burrow, talking about you really can't fool him. It was, I don't know if we have that or not, but talking about how Joe Burrow sees things and he knows the look and he's not going to make that mistake. So that's one. What makes Joe Burrow a good quarterback and one of the upper echelons? I could say elite, right? I think so. Led his team in college to a national championship, made it to a Super Bowl, something, we haven't experienced that yet here in Buffalo. Joe Burrow, had he been healthy this year and last, maybe it's a different story in Cincinnati, but yeah, he can diagnose a defense. So a lot of the stuff that McDermott likes to do in terms of where to put the safeties, where to put the blitz, I don't know if that works necessarily this week.
And again, it's crazy. This whole thing is it's something that I thought they were managing, but now it's a self-induced headache on top of the headaches that they already have to deal with. And I'm a Bills fan. I'm still confident that they can get this done, but the underlying efforts to make it happen is an onus on, I guess we'll find out just how good McDermott is. He's great, for the record, but we'll find out how good he is in managing things that probably should have never come up in the first place.
Well, we're talking to Binkley today, too. It's like, wow, when you look at the NFL standings, and we're kind of caught up in our Bills bubble, but yeah, if the Chiefs, we talk about the Bills not having a shot at the AFC East, and look, if they beat New England and they coming off a win over Cincinnati, people will be like, all right, get this done. The Chiefs are pretty much toast. They are 4 games back, 5 to play. I mean, you would have to have a faceplant by the Denver Broncos in order. Oh, by the way, the Chargers are in the middle of this. But if you look at Indianapolis and they could fall apart and the Chiefs hold the tiebreaker, that would be kind of the pathway. I could see the Chiefs kind of veering up to 6 or 7. And that's why, Tim, I'm standing alone on this. I don't want to deal with the Houston Texans in the wild card round. If we're looking at who could the Buffalo Bills play, the Houston Texans with their real quarterback and not C.J. Stroud, that defense, I don't know the second time around. I've seen that movie. I don't want any part of it. If the Chiefs get in, well, then you're on kind of parallel paths, meaning wildcard teams don't play each other. Okay?
You're only finding them in the title game.
Yes, and where would the title game be? It'd be in Buffalo. So invite the Chiefs to the party and let them knock off New England.
Ball, yeah.
Let them knock off. If they were the 7 and Denver was the 2, you really think Denver would win that game, Bronco fan? Really? You be nervous about that. You want the Chiefs out. That's why I am not becoming a Chiefs homer. No way, no how. I do not like that team whatsoever. But just from a Buffalo Bills standpoint, that's the team, the Houston Texans. Get rid of them.
Yeah, I don't want to throw trash on the Broncos, but the Broncos have 10 wins, and they could very well have the same exact record as the Chiefs. So, sure, they do have a victory over them, but at the end of the day, and again, at 10-2, it's hard to talk smack on them, but they've been far from impressive, and that muddy middle, I think Andy Barron's referred to it as, the Chiefs are in 10th place, but they're a 4th place team. It's crazy how wild and open this AFC is right now.
866-4FAN, 866-4326. If you're driving home, it looks like the snow stopped here downtown, but just be careful out there tonight. John in Rochester. Hello, John.
Hey, guys. I got to tell you, it doesn't look good for the division, but if the Bills run the table, they got a shot. But if they come in as a wild card, there's been a number of teams over the years that have won the Super Bowl as a wild card, and the Bills will be one of them, I believe. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I was listening to your show yesterday, the day before. Tasker didn't make it to the next round, I guess, for the Hall of Fame. And I'll tell you, that guy, watching his whole career in Buffalo, was unbelievable. And you guys saw him, too. This guy could do everything. In fact, in his time with the Bills, I saw him play wide receiver. I saw him play running back when we had some big injuries. And he was a heck of a running back. And, of course, defensive back and, of course, special teams. The guy deserves the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. The other guy I think deserves the Hall of Fame is Fred Smerlas. Fred Smerlas was an unsung nose tackle that during his prime, he was, in my opinion, the best nose tackle in the NFL. The guy was just an animal. And there's another guy that I think deserves to be in the Hall. Now, when I went down, when Andre Reed got inducted in the Hall of Fame, I went down and spent the weekend there. And Claude Humphrey, remember Claude Humphrey? He played for Atlanta. He played for, Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy got in the Hall of Fame. And when I saw his career compared to Fred, and I think Claude played sort of a defensive end where Fred was a nose tackle. If Claude Humphrey can make it, Fred Smerlas can make it.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
No. Thank you, John. But Fred Smerlas, Hall of Fame personality. But no, like those teams from the 80s, and that's also you gotta factor that in. Like they were really bad, and he was here 88. I want to say 88, 89, but then he gets supplanted by Jeff Wright. So he's a Wall of Famer. Okay, I think there's that. But no, not a Hall of Famer. And your point about Tasker, too, I think we all agree, right? If you watched Bills football back then, the thing that was working against him is that you have all these other guys from that era that, like how many you're going to put in from that era of Buffalo Bills football. Tasker hasn't made the cut. Not yet. But then I realized, oh, my gosh, wait a second. Roger Craig isn't in the Hall of Fame? How's that? Not possible. He was the engine in that first Bill Walsh offense that Joe Montana made go. Like, really? So I hope that Roger Craig would get in, and you realize there's some other guys like L.C. Greenwood. How did he not get it? So a lot of guys, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, very difficult to get into. I would say probably it's the toughest one because it is so subjective. It really is. And, John, where I'm kind of, dumping on your points, I'm sure that somebody could call in and rattle off a bunch of stats and say, no, here's why Fred Smerler should be in, or here's why that's why Hall of Fame radio talk is always going to be a staple, right? We can argue this, and you could be right, and I could be right. The thing I don't like is waiting until it's too late. Like in the Baseball Hall of Fame, why didn't they put in Buck O'Neil while he was alive? I thought that's a crime. They put in all those other players from the Negro League era, and they made Buck O'Neil wait, and then he dies. And now he's in, and I'm sure his family enjoys that, and sure that it's great that you finally got around to doing the right thing. But that's why I would say, just have some consideration when these guys are getting up there a little bit.
The Baseball Hall of Fame has kind of become the Hall of Good, where if you have a steady career for a long time, you're going to get in. Football is really, really tough to get in. There are Hall of Famers that will not even, like Torrey Holt is not in the Hall of Fame. To me, Torrey Holt is a first ballot Hall of Famer if you really break it down. The NFL Hall, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame rather, is a tough shell to crack. And as far as Tasker goes, I do think he will eventually get in. I think that he has to be the second. Like, it took Ray Guy forever to get in as a punter. Matthew Slater from the Patriots will get in, and once he gets in, I think that opens the door for Steve Tasker. Smerlis, I'm looking at his numbers right now. An unbelievable career, but it's at a time where guys like Reggie White were playing. I understand it's not the same position, but it's the same objective, and there are a lot of guys in that era that have substantially better numbers. Great career, but not Hall of Fame career.
No, and part of that position, too, the nose tackle position, you're doing your job. You're allowing others around you to get better. I mean, is Bruce Smith campaigning for Fred Smerlis? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Bruce shows up on the scene in 85, and Fred is right alongside him. But it's kind of hard to put in a bill that was here 88, which you're not even in the first Super Bowl at that point. But I appreciate you bringing up his name there, John, as we'll get to some shots here in the sports bar and take some more of your calls at 866-4FA. Before we get to shots, because I didn't want to put this in shots, watching a national broadcast on the Buffalo Sabres, to hear Paul Bissonnette just lay it out. Here's the video. Here's nobody hitting anybody. This is the softest defense in the league. And then to toss over to Henrik Lundqvist, and Lundqvist just kind of laying it out, just saying, well, toughness on defense is a mindset. Okay, what are we saying here? The Sabres don't have the mindset? Why is that? This isn't a new thing. This isn't a 1 week, 2 week trend. It's not a yearly trend. This has been going on for years. Whoever the coach is. And if there's a team right now that's in need of a jolt of a coaching change, if this team fumbles the way the rest of this road trip and they're going to Winnipeg tomorrow night, I just don't know if the decision makers, the owners, are paying any attention to this team. That's just my thought. And for the Amerks, a failure on you last night for not to get 2 points against Utica. That is now 4 consecutive Wednesday nights you played at home. Not exactly on one side, but the last 4 Wednesday nights you played at home that you haven't pulled away with the 2 points. This is a problem. Like, what is it? You need a full barn to get motivated? You look at Utica and you're not motivated? To fall behind 3-0 to that sad sack team, yes, you came back and you tied it, but then you lost the point in overtime. That's not good enough. And we're going to talk to Mike Leone on Tuesday. The Amherst in Charlotte making their annual trek coming up Friday and Saturday. Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call tomorrow night, which means another long night for you, Tim.
That's fine. I sign up for these things, and I love doing them.
You will be doing that. I've got RIT Canisius.
Long night for you, then.
Yeah, no, but that'll be a lot of fun. Anybody that's looking for hockey tonight, Friday night, come out to the Policini. Shots coming up here in the Sports Bar. It's Battaglia and Schneider here on The Fan.
Sports update.
No, Darius Slay will not be coming to Buffalo. He will decide if he'll retire. He doesn't have any other options here unless the Bills decide to move on. This just in, the Bills decided to release Jamarcus Ingram. He did not clear waivers. Ingram today claimed off of waivers by the Houston Texans. Perhaps the bigger issue for the Buffalo Bills, the defensive line. We knew that Joey Bosa is week to week. Today we learned that A.J. Epineza did not practice. Epineza has some sort of foot issue. Christian Benford knows he's going against one of the best in Jamar Chase.
I'm looking forward to it. Just going to make sure we get the dub, though. That's the most important thing, to get the win. He got good connection with the quarterback, got good ball skills, and good route runner. So he's a well-talented guy.
Week 14 begins tonight. Dallas is in Detroit. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Fan Rochester at home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
It's a fun game this Thursday night, Dallas and Detroit, which makes sense, right? They played just last week and give them some equal rest here. Welcome back here to the sports bar. Boy, the NFL owns Thanksgiving. They took over Christmas, right? We talked to Jay Binkley earlier, like, oh, yeah, that's the Christmas night game, and that's actually pretty interesting. Denver and Kansas City, and who knows? Maybe the division's wrapped up by that point. Maybe it's not, but it'll be interesting if the Chiefs are still alive. And now you got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas. It's time to fortify another holiday, perhaps. Technically, Black Friday is not a holiday, but honestly, who's working on Black Friday other than retail and restaurants and whatnot? The Wall Street Journal reporting that the league, the NFL, is looking into adding a second game on Black Friday. Goodell himself quoted, "I would expect there to be changes going forward." Now, that's all well and good. There is one holdup. It's called Congress. The Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 will not allow for any games to be broadcast on a Friday evening if we are still in the high school window, which we are. And the window, in terms of radius, you can't be playing an NFL game 75 miles of a high school game, which, okay, that good luck trying to find that. And this is why opening Friday night in the NFL, wait, how do they get away with that? They're playing in Brazil, okay? That's not longer than 75 miles. Even if you go with the games at 1 and 4, that 4 p.m. game crosses over into prime time. Maybe the solution, Tim, is maybe you're putting a team in London, perhaps, an earlier start. I don't know how they will figure this out.
I feel like I am too young to be old man yelling about change, but I hate it. I hate everything about how the NFL constructs its schedule and just hungry hippos, everything to do about our watchdom. Like, we are forced to, like, we're going to watch it anyway, but when they give us more options, we are stuck doing more. Like, give me.
Like, at what point, though? At what point you're saying this? The market will dictate whether it's too much. 57 million or whatever it is, shattering the record, Chiefs and Cowboys. Yeah, give more. When people have time to watch, this is when you want to put games in front of them. Now, the cautionary tale is this. College football decided, we're going to claim New Year's Eve. Yeah, well, New Year's Eve, people have traditions. It ended up being a flop. Christmas Day, it's not about ratings per se. It can't be. You're on a platform that not everybody has, and Netflix. That's why that works, because Netflix wants subscribers. And the NFL realizes, hey, you may have your holiday traditions. You don't need to watch all 3 games. You know how much of Christmas Day I watched last year? I remember watching a little bit of Chiefs and Steelers. I didn't watch a single thing of Ravens Texans. No, not interested. I passed on that.
Maybe that's my own. Maybe I should be yelling at myself then, because I would love a day to just be able to do nothing. But when there's a football game on, I feel obligated to watch it. Like, if there is something happening in sports, that's what I'm going to do.
Dude. Wait, like we talked about this
I don't know how to log off.
With PJ Glasser. Like, when we get the college bowl season, you don't like the comfort of knowing, hey, there's a game on every night, and maybe the atmosphere might be a little weird, but these are teams that are playing one last game. I love it. And now, especially if you love action too, like you can, play along here with your favorite team.
Maybe I'm just mad at myself because I'm gonna be watching every single one of these things, and it's preventing me, which means I'm preventing myself from doing other things.
Here's another detail on the hockey rink for the Olympics in Milan, which
a beautiful touch.
It's not completed, and in the last picture that the AP put out, it was from November 26th, and it's got cranes everywhere. It's like, wait a second, this doesn't look anywhere close. You can see the shell, but they're running out of time here, clearly. They aren't going to test the ice until mid-January. The first Olympic event is February 5th. Now we learn this important detail. Now, Olympic rinks, international hockey, it's not played on an NHL rink. They're bigger. In international hockey, it's all about speed and skill, not necessarily physicality. So that's why the IOC goes with the international rules. Not only are the rinks not going to be Olympic size, they won't even be NHL size. They're going to be 3 feet shorter than a standard NHL rink. Perhaps Canadian assistant coach Pete DeBoer, the former NHL coach, said it best. How does this happen? Perhaps most concerning with this arena, there is no target completion date, which I would think is kind of a basic thing in construction.
Yeah, that's crazy. Not only will it not be built on time, but when it is built, it will be built incorrectly. So it might not affect us as viewers, but these players are going to know. These guys are professionals. They're going to know exactly what is wrong, and they're going to be complaining about it the entire time.
Well, there's going to be some interesting byproducts of this, meaning like they choose the teams coming later. You're choosing teams based on physicality. If you have less space to work with, all right, then you're going to be hitting guys, which I'm sure a lot of fans in Rochester will be like, yeah. Which, okay, this is going to be the rule moving forward, but I think the bigger concern is this thing actually going to be completed in time, where you had the person in charge of this saying there's no plan B. Ooh, well, that's great. That's a lie. There has to be a plan B. The NHL has to be like, the NHL can't turn around. You've already emptied out all your arenas here for 2.5 weeks. You did this to your benefit for the betterment of the game. We saw what happened last year in the Four Nations. It was fantastic, and maybe it was a slow cycle on the sports calendar, whatever it was. My gosh, people were talking hockey. Not here, nationally. It was fantastic. Maybe it was where we were in the country with our relations with Canada. Whatever the magic formula was, it worked. And now, here comes an even bigger stage, the Olympics, and they don't even have a damn arena.
Maybe they can cobble together a fake, unsanctioned IOC exhibition shared across the Northeast where there's rink availability.
Well, that's the question. Like, if they say there's no plan B, right? If you are some arena manager in the middle of the winter when you have to be booking dates, and you would have 3 weeks available, that you should be fired. You should be booking something else. Like, what arena on earth would be clear for 3 weeks?
I'd have to look it up, but I'm sure that they can cobble together something if the IOC is going to fail them. They can share. Boston and Buffalo could do it. We could do it exactly the way that the Four Nations did it. Boston, maybe different places.
All right, so
Boston, Buffalo, Montreal, bang.
Yeah, like, okay, so if you went to Key Bank, like, okay, you have Jerry Seinfeld coming in February. I don't think they're gonna give up that date. You have a random Bandits game, Key Bank is going to be open. You're not moving the Olympics. I mean, gosh, there's got to be a solution. If LA is going to be moving softball to Oklahoma City in 2028, you've got to have a backup arena in place here.
We can't blame Bettman for this, but I'm going to. He has nothing to do with it, but I'm going to blame him for not having everything buttoned up before he sent these guys overseas.
Well, this is like a business decision, right? Like, you're biting your tongue. Like, what are you doing here if this whole thing doesn't – it'll come off and the ice will be bad. Here's the worst case scenario. The ice will be bad and somebody will get hurt because of it. And then we have a problem, and then we're not going to do this again. But you blame Bettman. I blame the IOC. Boo.
Awesome. Music City is clearly a hockey city. How about congratulating your Predators and the Penguins on a great Stanley Cup final?
It's disappointing, Tim, that they don't do that when the cup gets handed out. You would always have this big run-up. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Gary Bettman. Boo. Now they just hand him the mic, and by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late, and he's done talking, and it's kind of sad. This is a terrible story. Story that is shaking the lacrosse community, shaking Albany. Siena head coach Liam Gleason, men's lacrosse, took a fall at his home that resulted in a fatal brain injury. He played at the University of Albany. Dozens of his former players, including current ones in uniform, lined the hospital corridor in Albany as Gleason was being wheeled to donate his organs. Liam Gleason was 41.
That's crazy. That's really emotional. Like, that stinks to have to suddenly as well.
Is there public service in this? Because that's the story. And you're not allowed to pry. Tell me more about the fall. Because there's all sorts of things that could happen. Is it me going down the stairs and I hit my head on the concrete floor in the basement? When I hear fall and I hear this time of year, what are people doing outside? They are climbing a ladder and they're cleaning out their gutters. And the executive was always yells at me, no, you're not doing that yourself. You know, you got to have somebody hold the ladder and blah, 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 blah. Like, Tim, I'm never saying I've fallen, but you just feel when you're up high, and I'm not really good with heights. Again, I don't know, but if there's a lesson for the rest of us to learn here, what happened in the fall is, I mean, should the family come out and say this is what happened and everybody be careful? I mean, he's 41, a former collegiate athlete. This shouldn't happen.
Unfortunately, it happens a lot, and you're right. It shouldn't happen. And if there was some tragic accident, hopefully they'll be willing to speak. Right now, I mean, it just happened, and
yeah, and
it takes time to deal with. There's a whole lot of more important things, especially like that guy's got a family. You've got to figure all that out. That life comes at you fast.
They've announced, just like how we did for Metter here in Rochester, they're going to have their arena in Albany and have this open to the public apparently this Saturday. So thoughts with the lacrosse community on this. NBA talking heads are going to have to put a pin in the Giannis trade talk. It's because he got hurt last night, Tim. Calf strain, it's not that bad. It's 2 to 4 weeks, which when he went down, you're thinking, oh, boy, that's an Achilles. Wow. The injury happened only hours after ESPN's Shams Charania reported the Bucks and Giannis' representation sat down to talk about possible trades. This is what we don't like about the NBA.
He didn't want to play anyway. He's milking an injury to get him out of Milwaukee and doing it to boost his brother's trade value so he can come along with him.
Dude, he got hurt. All right, I think it's just weird timing. I'm not going to go there. It's like he's not faking an injury over this. Not to say it hasn't happened before. I just thought, here's the thing. I thought Giannis was like the good guy. He's going to come over and he's, going to be playing in a small market. Milwaukee is a small market, and he's lead his team to the championship, and this is where I want to be. I don't need to be going to a bigger market. He's just like the rest of them. It didn't work out, so I'm leaving. Okay, look, it's your career, and he'll go somewhere else. But to me, the true greats in NBA history are the leading men. And that's why Shaq and Kobe couldn't get along. Both wanted to be the alpha. You need to be a leading man like Michael Jordan. That's why LeBron will never compare in my eyes to Jordan. I don't want to go down that debate. That's why Kevin Durant, in my eyes, fails. You had your opportunity to be a leading man, and you went to Golden State. Congratulations.
The third guy there, yeah.
Yeah, you're not a leading man. You should be like the guy who, this is good. What happened to that era?
I think that's just humanity these
Yeah.
days, Gene.
So, now Giannis, you're going to go to Oklahoma City, or you're going to go to L.A., or you're going to wherever it should be. Maybe you could say Luka is going to be the leading guy with the Lakers.
LeBron has to go first, though.
He'll be gone soon enough.
Well, there's going to be a LeBron in L.A. for years. There's two there now.
By the way, Luka is not playing tonight. He will be personal reasons. Lakers in Toronto. So not sure what that is all about. Not telling tales out of school. Today, the announcement from Bill Ryder, Ryder Than You, that his show will be concluding on the Infinity Sports Network coming at the end of the year. There's going to be some major changes on the network. So there's some things in the trade. I only feel comfortable mentioning things when they are mentioned on the air. So Hot Take Hickey, Bill Ryder, they'll find jobs. They'll find work somewhere else. So we will certainly wish them well, and hopefully we'll get them on at some point here. Last call is for you at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We'll tell you about the show tomorrow here on The Fan.
You're listening to You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Reviewing the Bills news from today, Darius Slay says, no, I'm not reporting to Buffalo, which your options are, okay, well, change your mind, or you're going on the retired list. Unless Brandon Beane all of a sudden wants to release him and he wants to go to Philadelphia. Apparently that's the story. And I don't know if this was orchestrated by Drew Rosenhaus behind the scene, but it's an interesting kind of case study when it comes to NFL business. So the Bills will not really have a fourth corner because what we didn't expect, Jamarcus Ingram, released by the Buffalo Bills this afternoon, claimed off of waivers by the Houston Texans. How do you like that? It's almost like, hon, you can go see other people. Wait, no, come back. Again, it's corner 4, all right, and you could find corner 4 in this league. Ingram, by the way, is going to be a free agent after this season. The Bills have a roster spot to fill eventually once they figure out what to do here with Slay. One thing that is concerning, though, the defensive line, if now A.J. Epineza can't go, we know Joey Bosa can't go, you're left with starters of Javon Solomon, Greg Rousseau, and then what? Okay, you're pretty much promoting 2 guys, you would think, from the practice squad, but Cincinnati, it's really what this comes down to. Can the Bills offense do what they need to do? The Bills offense should be able to control the pace of this game. We'll make our official picks on the show tomorrow. Tomorrow on the show, we will be talking to Damon Amendolara, the host of the Bill Maddock podcast, and we'll get his thoughts on where the Bills are here as we are in the first week in December. We'll also talk to Thad Brown from News 8. We'll also try to catch up with Andrew Mossbrooks. He's down in Charlotte as the Emirates go on the road. Maybe that's what they need after really a yucky game last night. If you missed any of today's show, don't worry about it. You can go back and listen. And if you download the Odyssey app, 72 hours you can listen back to, and everything right there in real time. Tim, always a pleasure talking to you. I thought you were wearing a Steelers sweater today. You are not. It's a Sabre sweater.
That would be very silly of me. Bills hat I can get away with. Steelers hat,
absolutely
you're going to have
not.
to find me somewhere.
The JR Sport Brief coming your way next. Thanks for listening here on The Fan Rochester. Have a good night.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
It's game on at Remedy Bar at Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack. Catch Buffalo and all the big game action every week on our